The Two Mikes Summer Special with Parry and Graham on Talk Sport.
Welcome to the Two Mikes Summer Special on Talk Sport with me, Mike Graham, and him, Mike Parry. It's the holiday season, so we'll be travelling all over the world to the jungles of Brazil to discover a previously undiscovered tribe. We'll be going to Michigan for the Manchester United versus Real Madrid Super Friendly, and we're heading into the hinterland that is Porky Parry's brain for an explanation of how football fitness should really be tested. And of course, no Two Mike show is complete without a quiz for Mr. Parry. Tonight it's James Bond, because of course he's an expert in that. We want to hear from you too, of course, as well. 08717 223344. This is the Two Mikes Summer Special with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. Talk Sport Extra Time. I'd like to say a very, very good evening to Mr. Mike Parry, but he's fiddling about with the lights. What are you doing with the lights?
Well, it's too bright in there, Mike. I'm sorry, but
I'll tell you what, if that was a tavern, it's the lightest tavern I've ever been in. The Transfer Tavern I'm talking about.
Transfer Tavern, yeah. But
very bright.
It was very bright, and it was stunning my eyes. But anyway, never mind. We've got the light situation sorted out.
Well, you know what's interesting is that here we are, having not done a show in daytime for quite a long time. It's still actually light outside.
It is still light outside.
I was quite disconcerted driving in, actually, to be honest. I'm normally driving in the dark.
Exactly. Everybody I know now calls me Dracula because I only seem to come out at night.
There's a lot of reasons for that.
As long as it's coming to work with you, Mike, the sacrifice is worth it. However, it is great to be here, and I am delighted to be in the studio with you. There's a bit of light out there, but it'll be dark when we come out.
And enlightenment will be flooding out of here as well.
Enlightenment will be flooding out of here. And by the way, it's ironic that we're calling this the summer special because it's less summery today than it has been for about a month.
Really?
Well, it is.
It was very hot down in Sussex today.
It's been raining where I've been.
Really? Have you seen what I was doing in Glasgow, by the way? They've got so much rain at the Commonwealth Games, they can barely do the pole vault.
It's unbelievable. And the poor girl from Canada, was it Canada?
It was Canada,
vault, she's running along and she puts a pole in the ground, but nothing happens.
No.
And she kind of crashes into the base of the
I did think to myself, I could have done that.
Well, do you know what I used to do when I was a kid? My mum had a clothesline in the back and all the shirts would billow around in the wind, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
On wash day. And she had what's called a clothes
What
prop.
day was wash day?
Monday.
Was it?
Yeah. Rain, go away, come another washing day. It was always Monday.
Come again another day was actually the line.
Come another washing day we used to chant when it was raining. Hope the rain would go away.
Did you?
Yeah, we used to chant it, yeah.
There wasn't a lot to do in Chester as a child.
Well, we used to sit in the back garden and chant that and try and help Mum with the washing, you know. But anyway, the point of the story is, this clothes prop was about, well, I was only little, I suppose I was about 3 or 4 foot high.
It was one of those things shaped like a Y, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, shaped like a Y, and it's probably about 6 feet long, something like that. So after watching the what's it called? The pole vault. Yeah, I run towards the wall at the end of the garden, put the old, clothes prop in the ground, thinking it would magically lift me off the ground. Of course, it didn't. I went crashing into the wall.
Well, of course, into the fence.
And smashed my face in and all that kind of stuff.
It needs to have a certain amount of bend in it, doesn't it? It has to have a bit of give.
Yeah. But anyway, getting back to the weather, Mike, and by the way, I'm looking forward to the next 3 hours. It's going to be enlightening and instructive. So I'm telling you that where I've been in Epsom, right, on the Epsom Downs and all that, it's actually been raining. It's been very cool for the first time in about a month, for which I'm delighted. But the point I want to make is this. Why do the weather forecasters, when they come onto the television or come onto the radio, although you can't see their face on the radio, obviously, but you can see their face on the television.
You asked me this question the other night.
Yeah, but I want to know the answer.
Well, I haven't got the answer.
Because you see, when they come on today...
I didn't have the answer the other night
When they come on today, they're all morose and all looking glum and saying it's not good. Why is it not good? You know, we all know that when you get temperatures which are anticipated to be heading towards something like 100 degrees soon... the world will burn up. We all know that. We went through it the other night, and it's still happening. So when we get a break in the weather, when we get a bit of rain, when it gets cooler, when the world returns to the normal sort of temperate climate it should be, because it shouldn't be...
It's never going back.
Very, very hot,
never going back.
Nobody's celebrating.
No, it's never going back. It's going to get hotter and hotter.
Why aren't people coming on telly saying, it's a marvellous day, it's a brilliant day, the temperature's gone down, there's a bit of rain? They don't. They say it's a terrible day because it's not 80 degrees.
The one thing I've told you many times is during the summer holidays, you want the weather to be nice so you can take the kids out.
Yeah.
I took the kids to a medieval fair today, for example.
That sounds good.
And it was lovely. Beautiful sunshine. Slightly ruined by the fact that when I got to the medieval fair, I had no money. because I'd been to the cash machine just before we went there, right, to decide, just in case, because they specifically wanted to buy shields and swords, because they wanted to be knights of the realm, right?
That's fine.
Which is a great idea. So I thought, well, I'm going to get some cash, you know, because I didn't have any cash.
Yeah.
So I went to the cash machine, and I'd already been inside, and I'd bought a couple of things, bottle of water here, a couple of packs of cigarettes. My hands were full.
Really splashing out on the kids then, a bottle of water, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, well, we don't let them...
So, hang on, let me just get this right. An £8.50 packet of cigarettes for you and a 40p bottle of water for the kids.
Bottle of water was actually for their mother. They didn't get anything.
That's parenthood for you.
They didn't get anything, actually.
Parenthood for you.
No, they didn't get anything, right? Anyway, get back in the car.
Yeah.
And there's something wrong with the car as well, which I'll tell you about later. So everyone's
you've got a problem with the water, the car...
So everybody's a bit stressed out, you know, everyone's a bit stressed out. Anyway, get to this medieval fair, and they tell us that despite the fact that we're members of the National Trust, which of course, you know, should mean that it's cheap and free...
I didn't know you were, actually. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, I am, yeah.
I'm a member of the Woodlands Trust, by the way. Yeah, grow trees, yeah.
Well, does that mean you can go to parks for nothing?
No, it means you can sort of walk around in all these woodland areas.
Yeah, I can walk around in them as well. I do have to remember the Woodlands Trust for that, by the way.
Exactly, yeah.
But this is meant to give you know, anyway, they said, we've got an event today, special medieval event.
Excellent.
And I went, oh, great, how much is that then? That's 11 quid per adult.
Didn't
even ask them what it was for the kids. So it would have been an extra, like, 30-odd quid.
Yeah.
So I said, no, don't worry about that. We're just going to walk around the castle and, you know, see what's going on.
So what was the £11 entrance fee for?
Well, we get free entry because we're members of the National Trust, but they had a special event on. So,
I see,
so
like in the Sanctum.
Yeah, so they had some jousting and, you know, all that sort of thing. All like, you know, people dressed up as medieval people.
Yeah, excellent, sounds good.
Lots of people look a bit
but
like
you
you,
wouldn't
actually.
pay this for your children to see?
No, absolutely not.
How miserable are you?
I'm not miserable.
So £8.50 for a packet of fags is very acceptable. £11 for
no, it's not £11.
One of your lads.
No, it would have been £35 for the four of us.
So 35 divided by 4 is £7.50.
Something like that.
Or £8.50. £8.50, right? So you pay £8.50 for a packet of cigarettes.
That's not the issue.
To destroy your lungs and breathe smoke.
Not the issue.
But you will. Yes, it is the issue. It is the issue. But you won't pay £8.50 to allow your little boy to go into a scene of absolute wonder and awe with men riding around on horses dressed as medieval knights and all that kind of stuff.
It's not worth the money.
You see, that's disgraceful.
Instead, I saw an ice cream van.
£35, did you say, as a family ticket?
Yeah, around that.
Right, last time you and I went out for a bit of lunch and a drink, the wine was £35 a bottle, I remember. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Did I pay for that?
No, you didn't.
Well, there you go.
So you wouldn't remember
that. There you go. Would you like to go to a medieval pageant instead?
Well, I would like a medieval pageant because I know a lot about the medieval lifestyle. I mean, for instance...
You'd be like Baldric, wouldn't you?
No.
You would. You'd be like the slave that goes walking around behind a fire. No. You know, getting slapped by the nobleman.
No.
Yes, you would.
I could well be the fool, because the fool was an important part of the medieval court. But no, it's a very good job, a very responsible job. Yeah. And if you got it wrong, you got your head off.
High jump. But anyway, do you mind if I just finish my story instead of talking about you all the time?
Okay.
So anyway, I got to the ice, so I thought we'll get them an ice cream, you know,
how much was the ice cream?
To mask their disappointment.
And how much was that?
Well, to be honest, I don't know, because when I went to pay for the ice cream, I realised that I didn't have any money. And what I'd done was I'd left the money.
What kind of a day out is this with the family?
Well, hang on.
No, you can't see the jousting. No, you can't have an ice cream.
Listen.
Shut your mouth. There's a bottle of water.
No. I literally had no money, and what I'd done was I'd taken the card out of the machine and I'd left the money in the machine.
I've done that loads of times.
Can you believe that?
No, I've done it loads of times.
And I was so grumpy then because I thought, so now I've lost 100 quid.
No, I'll tell you what happens.
Well, don't tell me what happens. I'm telling you the story.
All right, go on then. Yeah.
You are unbelievable, aren't you?
Go on.
So we then decided, well, should we ring the place and try and find out whether, you know, somebody's handed the money in or whether they know anything about it?
Yeah.
You know, no signal. You know, deepest, darkest Sussex. It's only, 40 miles from London.
Yes.
There's no Vodafone signal.
Right.
Unbelievable, right? There's no mobile phone signal. So, maybe we can find, 3G. No 3G signal either. I mean, unbelievable. In this country, in 2014,
we shouldn't live
we are not in
the middle of nowhere,
It's not the middle of nowhere, though. It's about, 5 miles south of Tunbridge Wells, for heaven's sake.
Really? Well, that's middle of nowhere for me.
Well, as far as you're concerned, it is. Anyway, so I just had to be grumpy then. We bought them some very expensive shield and sword. So the two of them have got a shield and a sword. That was 33 quid.
Right.
Just for the 2 shields and 2 swords.
Right, okay.
So
and what did you do? Pay on a card?
Paid with a card, yeah.
Right, okay.
Then get back to the to Tesco's garage where I'd lost the money and went in, and it turns out that the machine, actually, if you haven't taken the money out, sucks the money back in.
It does, after 10 seconds.
And some guy had apparently seen the money, as I was walking away, disappearing back into the machine, and gone inside and
Who's seen that then?
Some innocent bystander who was obviously very very honest, went in and told them, so that they then said, apparently this is what happened.
No, it does happen. It's happened
So
to
that's
me.
amazing.
No, you're not always that lucky. Shall I tell you why? Because you're standing there, and what happens is your phone goes, right? And just as you're in the middle of the transaction, you pick up your phone, you look at it, and think, then you take your plastic card, and then you turn away. It's happened to me a load of times.
Right.
And then, like you've got back in the car and try, where's my money? And so you go back and think, anyway, one of two things happens. Either it gets sucked back in, in which case...
Or somebody nicks it.
Well, somebody can nick it, because if there's somebody dishonest behind you, the minute you turn away, if that money's still there, whoosh, they can snaffle it. However, most of the machines have now got cameras, so they would be done for theft if they do that. That's a warning to anybody who snaffles money who's standing behind me in the queue.
Right.
The moral of this story is honesty will always out. So if you take the money out, you've got to go and find the person whose money it is. If you let the money stand where it is, it goes back in. But I rang, you see, because I'm more efficient than you, I was able to ring my service provider immediately. I explained what had happened, and they said, let's just have a look. And they said, OK, Mr. Parry, this shows that you took £200 out of your account at 2:14 this afternoon, and at 2:15 your account was credited.
You probably have to do that quite a lot, don't you?
No,
ring them up the next day and say, how much money did I take out yesterday?
No, why would I have to do that?
Well, because your memory's not that great now.
No, my memory's fine.
Talk Sport. On air, online and on TV at Virgin Media Channel 927.
Right, now then, you tell me that I tell you I'm an expert in everything. I'm not an expert in everything, but...
No, I know that. It's very clear that you're not an expert on anything.
You keep telling me you're an expert. I don't say that, but I know things about things. Now, you take your kids today to the medieval...
You can have that on your business card. What? I know things about things. Mike Porky Parry, I know things about things.
Now, you take your kids to this medieval thing today. A
very educational.
Well, of course it is, and it's wonderment for your little kids seeing all these people galloping around. Now, you talked about jousting, right? Well, let me tell you about jousting. The reason why we drive on the left in this country and the Continentals drive on the right is because of jousting.
How come?
Louis VIII of France, right, he had a jousting champion, and there was a jousting competition in one of the wars against the English.
What, in France or in England?
In France, on French territory.
Okay.
So they laid down the rules.
Did they have to have a little triangle on the back of the horse that they had to take with them? You know how to take a triangle when you go abroad.
Don't be ridiculous.
I always remember that from my childhood days.
Yeah, well,
take a triangle.
No,
now you have to have a high-vis jacket as well.
I'm trying to get you to appreciate some historical parlance here, please. So what happened was, in those days, the jousting, the lance was held in the left arm. Okay,
right.
And so that's the way they did it. Anyway, what happened was the English Lancelot. That's where Lancelot comes from, OK, was better than the French guy. So as he came rushing forward, he took the French guy's left arm off. And, obviously...
With his left lance?
Yeah, that's right, very badly injured. Anyway...
So he must have been on the right, then?
Yes, that's right, yeah. But anyway...
I thought you said they drove on the left.
No, I'm going to tell you now what happened. Louis VIII was so disappointed with his champion... He made him get up and do it again, even
with one arm.
Yes, but because his left arm had been torn off, he then had to hold his lance in his right arm. Do you see what I mean? And so that completely.
Well, so that's rubbish. Because that would have meant he was then driving on the left.
Yes, that's right.
Well, that's what we do.
No. You don't understand the directions from which they were coming. Okay.
Well, you can't lance somebody with the lance being held in your right hand unless the person coming towards you is to your right.
No, Mike, you don't understand about lancing. You lance across the body, not at it. Did you see what I mean? Don't you understand that?
No, you don't lance across.
Yes, you do.
I don't think you're right.
Yes, I am right.
You're right about
I am right. Honestly, don't worry about it. I know these things.
So you're saying that he was holding it in his right hand.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So when he was holding it in his left hand, how did the other guy manage to lance him from the opposite side and take the wrong arm off?
He took his shoulder off.
That's the wrong side, though.
No, it's not the wrong side. You don't. When you're jousting in those days, you don't say I'm going to go for the bit of the body nearest to me. You go for the bit of the body furthest away.
Why?
Because it's a tactic that you use in jousting.
No, it doesn't make any sense at all.
Of course it does. Of course it does. Anyway, that's the reason why we drive on the left and they drive on the right, OK?
I just don't understand that at all.
Well,
I have to draw me a picture.
I know you don't understand it because you find a lot of things difficult to understand when I'm trying to explain them to you, but I thought I'd let you know, and I'm sure our audience will be grateful that I've solved that one for them, why we drive on the left and they drive on the right.
Well, let me read you a couple of texts about what people think of you so far. Right. Here's somebody who says, from Ali in Aberdeen, Porky, you could be a fool in medieval times, but you're definitely a fool in today's times. Tim, a Spurs fan in Halifax, says, how nice to hear Mike Porky Parry back on at a normal time. I've been looking forward to hearing him all week. Well, of course, we are on
nice,
other times of the night as well. And Derek in Pencoed says, Mike, if Porky's an expert on every subject under the sun like he claims, I think you should get the listeners to phone, text or tweet questions to test him. I have a few that will see how much he knows. Well, you know what? You can always do this. You can always text into us and suggest a subject that we could do this kind of the quiz on. But the quiz tonight is on James Bond. By the way, I thought you said James Bond was on tonight.
It is.
How come it's not on one of our internal screens then?
Well,
I'm looking around. I don't see it.
Because our monitors have been rewired to portray and relay other things. But it's around somewhere. Don't worry.
James Bond.
We'll get it very soon. Listen, I want to talk to you about fitness tests for footballers.
Yeah, Loic Remy's been in the news lately.
Well, you see, this is what I find absolutely astonishing. Absolutely astonishing. So, Harry Redknapp, of course, was quite moved and said, I don't know why he failed his...
Yeah, you see, the funny thing about that was everyone said, well, Harry Redknapp is saying he's the fittest player he's ever seen, and he doesn't understand why any of this is happening. It's very well known now, and it should have been known to Harry Redknapp, presumably, that when he was transferred from, I think it was Nice to Marseille, before he came to QPR,
he had some sort of heart
discovered
flutter,
he had some kind of a heart flutter. I mean, it's not quite a hole in the heart, but it's something like that.
But anyway, what is so interesting from my perspective, because I like to analyse these things, right?
Of course.
Who actually decides whether he's passed or failed the fitness test? Presumably it's the buying club.
It's the buying club, yeah.
But then the buying club, as Harry sort of insinuated, allegedly, uses an excuse not to buy him in the end because I didn't have the money or it was too expensive.
Some people think, and I don't know whether this is true, that because Barini is kind of digging his heels in and may not be going back to Sunderland,
that's right,
and they may not be able to sell him to Sunderland, they didn't really want to spend the extra money on Remy.
Yeah. Now, now I then went and looked at my coaching manuals to try and find out the history of fitness tests and
how modern are they?
Oh, well, they've been going on forever. But I'll tell you what's really interesting. I found that in some countries in South America, not necessarily Argentina and Brazil, but other countries like that, what they do with the fitness test, and this is quite interesting, is the player turns up at the club and then the club doctor instructs the player who they're going to buy to carry the manager around the pitch piggyback style. No, they do, because they say...
the circumference of the pitch, or that he's go across diagonally?
Well, the one I read, it was just 1 length down and 1 length back.
Right.
And the manager then, at first hand, is observing all the physical qualities of the player. His breathing rate, his strength, his body strength.
Right. They can check his gait, I suppose.
Check his gait, or his knee joints working, all this kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Maybe they should have done that with Andy Carroll at West Ham. He'd never been able to carry Sam Allardyce 2 lengths of the pitch, would he?
No.
He'd collapsed halfway through. They'd have had to shoot him.
I mean, can you imagine? They'd
have had to shoot him. I'm sorry.
What I'm saying
I'm
is,
sorry, your player will not be joining the club. He's had to be put down.
I'm not joking. I mean, they regard, I've thoroughly researched this. They regard this as, what are you laughing at? What are you laughing at? As the perfect way to monitor every physical attribute of a player. Within the space of about 5 or 6 minutes.
Well, that wouldn't catch anything like a hole in the heart, though, would it?
Well, of course it would, because if you're carrying 12 or 13 or 14 stone on your back, your heart's going to give up at some stage. If you're walking 110 yards down, you're laughing again.
That's pretty optimistic on the Sam Allardyce front.
And back again. But I mean, it sounds to me like a very sensible way of doing things. Because
the people in South America,
I mean, they do it because they haven't got all this sophisticated equipment.
Right.
So they haven't got a treadmill, they haven't got scales which are minute
they used to make players carry coal sacks up and down stairs and things like that for training?
Well, no. What they used to do is after the Second World War, when all these grounds, were falling to bits, and they used bomb rubble sites to pile up bankments and called them the
Bankments?
Kop. Embankments. They called the Kop. That's how Liverpool's Kop was formed, and they made the players run up and down. But I mean, that's irrelevant. This is not a training method. This is a very primitive and crude method of assessing a player's ability, and I think it's very sensible.
Well,
say live and let die. Live and let die. Live and let die. Live and let die.
This is Talk Sport. Of course, we are the two mics. It is a summer special. There will be a James Bond quiz coming up. There's some great pictures coming in, by the way, of you in various poses as James Bond, with your head sort of morphed onto either Daniel Craig's body,
Mike,
Sean Connery.
I think it's pitiful.
Porkfinger is one of my favourites.
I think it's pitiful that you have to, in order to pick yourself up, you have to try.
It's nothing to do with me.
You have to try and sort of
These are coming
me
in,
down.
These are coming in unsolicited. I have to tell you.
Well, you know,
and,
I've got a sense of humour, and it's all good fun and all that. But you know, I wouldn't dream of asking people to sort of redesign your body form or body shape because it would look pretty ridiculous. By the way, that one there, that was the theme music to Live and Let Die.
It was
right?
indeed.
And
Paul McCartney and Wings.
Yeah, Paul McCartney and Wings. Absolutely right. Yeah, and
there's a great version of that actually by another band.
Oh yeah,
I don't know whether you've heard it.
Well, nobody's ever done a cover of a Beatles record that was better than the original.
Well, that's not a Beatles record, is it?
Well, it was a Paul McCartney record, and he's, you know, the Beatles were Lennon McCartney. His name was McCartney. Do you get the connection?
Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, Guns N' Roses. Yeah. Well,
Axl Rose.
Axl Rose. Yeah.
Anyway, listen to this from Luke. Luke has tweeted in at IROMG or at Mike Parry 8 is the other one you can go for. He says Porky's spot on about the left-hand driving. I read this on my Open University course.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed. I love you listeners when
got something
you
right.
ring up
Finally,
and when you text
years.
us or email us and you say, you know, Porky.
I still don't think you explained it very well.
Porky did not imagine it and make it up. He's absolutely right. Thank you so much.
All right, well,
That's
let me
great.
ask you one more question then.
Go on then.
So if the French king, Louis VIII,
Yes.
dictated that his man should drive on that side,
Yeah.
which would technically be the right-hand side,
Yes.
then surely before that, everyone was driving on the left.
Mate, you've not followed the argument from the start. I'm not going through it all again. And by the way, you don't have any sympathy for the guy who had to do it with one arm because the other arm got ripped off.
By the way, you know, when I was a kid and we used to go on these family holidays, we'll talk about holidays in a minute, we used to go on these family holidays and drive through sort of Germany and Austria and get to Italy and all that.
Yeah.
My dad knew a guy through the Press Golf Society in Europe who was a former racing driver. He had one arm. And he played golf with one arm.
Really?
But he also drove a car with one arm, terrifyingly fast. Well, he had one of those BMW Alpines, which was, you know, the cars that they sold
incredible.
in the sort of late 70s.
Yeah, incredible.
And this guy, and it was a manual as well. And, of course, so I was sitting, he had to take me somewhere for some reason. I'm sitting in the front seat. And he was herring round roads that were literally like, you know, just like cattle tracks at about 70 miles an hour driving with one hand. And his hand was his left arm, right? So he had it on the wrong side to change gear. But every time he changed gear, he had to switch his hand over there, change gear. And it was terrifying, right?
When I was, you know, a young reporter growing up and doing industrial stories and all that, British Rail appointed a man called, I think his name was Bob Reed, and he had one arm. But that's not the best of it. He played golf and had a handicap of 7.
Yeah, this guy was very good at
How
golf
about that?
as well.
How about that?
As long as it's your left arm.
With one arm.
As long as you've got a left arm, you can play golf.
And the other story about people with one arms is there was a great sports reporter called Ken somebody. I can't remember his name now, but his daughter went on to become a great sort of
I know the guy. He
writer.
fell under a train, didn't he?
That's what I'm saying. He lost an arm.
Yeah,
he was coming home and one night, and I don't know which station it was, one of the London stations. I'm not laughing.
Why are you
honestly.
laughing?
No, I'm not laughing.
Yeah, you are
honestly.
laughing.
But he went under the train just as the train moved, and he lost an arm. It's a terrible thing to
Awful
only have
story.
one arm.
Kevin has tweeted in. He says Goldfinger is on. He says, but funnily enough, after the James Bond film, it's Death Wish. What is the face of death? Mike Parry got a TV show now.
That's a bit harsh. I'll tell you about Death Wish in a minute. But that theme tune we just played, Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I say that I thought Roger Moore was the best is the best action sequence in any Bond film has to be the speedboat chase on the river in
You
Alabama?
were saying this to Nat Coombs. It was down there somewhere, wasn't it?
Alabama or
Or possibly it might have been Louisiana because remember they're in New Orleans at one point, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. They're in New Orleans. The alligators
The
he steps
bayou.
over. But what was marvellous about it was the boats kept coming out the river, skidding across land, smashing
Well,
into wedding parties,
and
then back into the river.
Talking of boat sequences, wasn't there a better one in one of the Daniel Craig ones when they had to chase down the Thames and the O2 was there and everything like that, and they were shooting boats?
That wasn't Daniel Craig. That was Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan, yeah.
Pierce Brosnan, yeah. So you said Pierce Brosnan was your favourite Bond, and you can't even remember one of the opening sequences.
I don't proclaim to be an expert in James Bond. You're the expert.
The best line in the one I'm talking about, Live and Let Die, was the great fat sheriff, the redneck sheriff, who was after him and says,
he was always chewing tobacco.
Yeah, always chewing tobacco, and then just as he sees Bond's boat comes herring around the corner, and then they put up a big barrier to stop him getting anywhere. What do you call it?
A barrier.
A barrier. That's right. Yeah. It's called something else actually, but anyway, and he stands there and he says, "Hey, I got you now, boy." Except,
and then he flies over
yeah,
it.
exactly. He flies over it and lands up in the sheriff's car. The boat ends up in the sheriff's car. It was great. I loved that film.
I loved it too.
And by the way, it introduced Jane Seymour to us all as well.
Yeah.
One of the most beautiful women in the world.
Well, I deliberately didn't ask you any questions about Bond's girls because I knew that would be your speciality. So there are no questions about Bond girls.
I have an appreciation of the female form, of course.
Now, we're going to be talking holidays coming up because
you're going on one, aren't you, soon?
I'm going on one next week.
Where are you going?
I'm going to Turkey.
Okay.
Which is one of those places that you go with the kids, and it's going to be great fun. It's going to be very, very hot. You would hate it, actually.
I would, yeah.
But I was
I've
going
been
to
to
ask
Turkey, and I did hate it.
You very
not
rarely
because
go.
there's anything wrong with the Turkish people, but it's very, very hot.
When did you go to Turkey?
I went when England were playing in Turkey.
Oh, yeah. Did you go to Istanbul?
It's in Istanbul, yeah, and went across the Bosphorus and
very dangerous kind of atmosphere in Turkish
from east to
football
west.
grounds, isn't it?
It is pretty grim.
Did they play Galatasaray's ground?
They played at that's right, Galatasaray, and on the other side of the bridge.
And they've got Welcome to Hell written up there.
Welcome to Hell and all that kind of stuff, and they make conditions very hard for the visiting team. They flood their dressing rooms and all this kind of stuff.
Really?
You know what I mean? Yeah. It was quite.
So when you say you went across the Bosphorus, what do you mean?
Well, there's a bridge. There's a bridge that goes over the Bosphorus.
Oh,
right?
I see.
And
I thought you meant in a boat.
No. You go on a bridge from east to west. You go from Europe to Asia, right? Now, that's quite interesting.
That's the whole Constantinople thing, isn't it?
Well, this is very point, you see. So, what happens is, we do the job and all that kind of stuff, and always, my job, I thought, at the end, as, a caring sort of member of the crew, was to take the lads for lunch before we came home.
This was a Talk Sport trip, was it?
Yeah, it was, yeah. So if the flight was at 6 o'clock, I'd say, right, come on, lads. So we went to this fantastic restaurant, right on the top of the hill. And the history of this place was fantastic. It's where all the spies used to gather in the Cold War days, right? And they all had massive, great, long lens, binoculars and telescopes and all that, spotting the ships going up and down. Because, of course, once you go through the Bosphorus, it's the Black Sea, and it's Russia and Odessa and all that kind of stuff. And what the West could do is, simply by looking at a ship and how high or low it was in the water, they could tell whether it had missiles on it or whether it was smuggling, soldiers down through the Black Sea and all this kind of stuff.
How could they tell that? Because surely if they had something heavy, it wouldn't necessarily be a missile.
Well, they could tell.
They had cars on it.
Well, they could tell because what they did is they allied what they saw on the ships with the intelligence information they were getting from our spies in Moscow.
Right.
The KGB tried to recruit me once.
Did they?
Yeah.
Why?
Because,
As what?
As a spy.
What, not as just a jester?
No.
As a spy?
As a spy.
How do you know that?
Because I know it, because...
Well, they didn't tell you they were going to recruit you as a spy, did
No.
they?
No. I'm sure I've told you this story before. When we were at the Express, when I was at the Express, 'cause I had a senior position there. And
yeah, we weren't actually there at the same time.
No,
we were very
no,
short.
yeah,
We're never in the same country
yeah.
at the same time.
No, exactly. We opened a bureau in Moscow when old Glasnost happened. You know when old Gorbachev said, it's all perestroika, Glasnost, we're all friends again and all that. So we go over there and we buy a couple of council flats, right, off the bent Moscow mayor, and knock them together and form a bureau. And all this stuff had to be shipped in from Finland to. But the point is, in being there, suddenly got invited out to the New October Hotel, which was a KGB hotel. I mean, it was so luxurious, you couldn't believe it. It was like a 6-star hotel. Everything else in Russia in those days was 1-star. There was no advertising hoardings or anything.
No McDonald's at that point either.
No, that came later. I got invited back the year later for the opening of the first McDonald's.
Well, listen, tell us the rest of the story in a minute because we've got to go. This is Talk Sports, and of course we are the Two Mikes. This is a summer special. We're here till midnight. Loads more to do. We'll hear the rest of Mr. Parry's spy story next.
The Two Mikes Summer Special.
There's another jelly piece flung at your radio station window for the last king of cost cutters on the Alan Brazil Sport Breakfast.
Weekday mornings from 6
I'm gonna...
on Talk Sport. Talk Sport. On air, online and on TV at Sky Channel 0108.
Back to Sam Matterface. It's been yet another goal in the Man United game. Sam.
It's Real Madrid 1, Manchester United 2, and it's a second goal for Ashley Young, who picked the ball up down the left-hand side, 6 yards in from the touchline. He worked it onto his right foot, cut inside, took Arbeloa out of the game, curled the ball in towards the far post. Wayne Rooney was coming in ahead of Sergio Ramos. He looked to try and glance the ball. Now, initially, I thought that it was Rooney who glanced the ball beyond Iker Casillas in the Real Madrid goal, but it wasn't. He didn't get a touch on it. If he did get any touch at all, it was some of that artificial hair that he's had planted in to the top of that forehead that got the slightest of touches, but it didn't change the direction of the ball. It's Ashley Young's goal, and it's Manchester United 2, Real Madrid 1.
Yeah.
Thanks very much indeed, Sam. We've got to go to the Commonwealth Games now, is that right? There's an awful lot of updates going on here. Getting a bit fed up with this. Let's go back to Toby Gillies.
Live sport, Mike. That's what happens.
It better be good this time.
I
Instead
shall
of
tell you
some
about
rain report
Usain
you've
Bolt
been doing.
to
Go on
start.
then.
I've got
Tell
plenty more medals to tell you about. Usain Bolt and Jamaica gold in the 4x100 metres relay. A new games record, breaking the old English one from 1998, a time of 37.58 seconds. Of course, pretty much everyone else was always fighting for silver before it had even started. So I guess it has to be seen as a success that England's Adam Jamili, Harry Akins-Ariti, Richard Kilty and Danny Talbot came in second and took silver. But while they celebrate that, another English boxer celebrates gold. Joseph Joyce winning the men's super heavyweight division, I should say, beating Joe Goodall of Australia in the final. Absolute heartbreak for England in the women's hockey final. They were 1-0 up against the defending champions Australia with 24 seconds left. They gave away a penalty corner. From it, the Australians scored with just 11 remaining. It's 1-1. We are literally just about to start penalty flicks. And Gabby Adcock and Lauren Smith of England are into a final game against their Malaysian opponents Lim Lu Yin and Lai Pei Jing in the badminton women's doubles bronze medal match. I guess I'll bring you the result of that in half an hour's time.
Glasgow 2014 Commonwealth Games update on Talk Sport with Ford. Hashtag play your part.
Tom Jones.
Pardon?
It's Tom Jones, Thunderball.
He hasn't started yet.
No, but it will be. See,
I don't think you're right about that.
Yeah, of course I'm right.
It's an instrumental.
Hang on, that's from Russia with Love, this is. This is from Russia with Love.
Tom Jones is not appearing in this song.
No, hang on. He did sing Thunderball, though. This is Matt Monro. This is Matt Monro, definitely. Remember Matt Monro?
It's an instrumental.
Yeah, but I mean, the guy who sang the theme music to this
Well,
from Russia with Love.
You're not going to do very well on the quiz, are you?
From Russia with Love, that was Rosa Klebb, wasn't it?
Rosa Klebb didn't sing it.
No, I know she didn't sing it.
She was the one with the spike that came out of her shoe.
That's what I mean, yeah. This is John Barry.
Is it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, he wrote it. Yeah, I know that.
I might have to change one of the quiz questions because of that. Now, let me read you this from Simon, who's tweeted in at IRMG. He said, the KGB tried to recruit Mike Parry. I think he's getting confused with KFC.
I like that. Actually, I love
Are you sure? Are you sure it was the KGB?
No, I'm serious.
I mean, how do you know it was a KGB hotel?
Listen,
did it have KGB written on the top?
I'll tell you all about it. I'm staying in.
You will.
I'm staying in this sort of downbeat hotel, and all of a sudden, I get invited, and they say the manager says we've got an upgraded hotel for you.
Yeah.
So that's very nice. Thank you very much. What's all that about? They said, oh, well, you're very welcome. One of the few guys who spoke English. If you don't speak English in Moscow in those days, you were done for.
Yeah.
Because of course they don't have the Arabic alphabet that we do. They have the Syriac alphabet.
The Cyrillic.
Cyrillic. That's the one I'm talking about. And so you can't even read street signs or anything. But anyway, this car turns up, takes me to this new hotel with all my bags. It's a 6-star hotel.
You have to keep your wits about you, I imagine.
You have to keep your wits about you, mate.
You really stay sober as well.
And anyway, it transpired in the next couple of days that this was the KGB hotel where all the KGB officers went there on leave.
Did they try and honey trap you?
Yeah, of course they did. No, well, they didn't try and honey trap. I was too smart for that. But what they did is they took me to this room, dinner, and champagne was flowing. Now, the only other champagne I'd drunk in Russia up to that time was tasted like grape water and banana vodka. So I got banana vodka and I got French champagne. And I'm not joking, over this dinner, these people who said that they were, Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Business to help us set up our bureau, all said how interested they would be to keep in touch with me when I'm back in London. And would I like to go and see old Sergei at the Russian embassy because he's a good guy and all that. I'm telling you, man, they were up for it.
Well, it's not dissimilar from that story I told you about the Foreign Office when I went there. But did they know at this point, or was this before you were spying on behalf of the British Embassy in Washington?
Well, no, that was years later. I'm
surprised they didn't know about that. Surprised they didn't kind of bring that up in one of your conversations and say, how about those Russians that you met? Well, because they know everything, these guys.
Yeah, I know they know him, but I went there in the course of his own. Anyway, I made it absolutely clear that as my father served in the Second World War to bring freedom and peace and democracy to Europe, nowhere in the world.
They were on the same side, though.
Well, they were for some of the time, but not all of the time,
right.
If you understand the Second World War.
Diplomacy, isn't it?
Yeah, and then, of course, at the end of the Second World War, Europe was carved up and we became enemies again. And I said, no, you got the wrong guy here. At which stage, I was immediately thrown out of the New October 6-star hotel and I was back in the old 1-star down down the road.
That's an interesting story because the
Yeah.
guy who set up
Yeah.
the bureau was not this man, but Will Stewart, who ended up
I know
working
Will very well.
in Russia. He's a guy that got very well in with the Russian scene. I think married a Russian woman as well and lived in
he did.
Moscow
He's got
for
a
many
Russian
years.
family now. Yeah.
Anyway, I hadn't seen this guy for years, right?
Right.
And you'll never guess where he popped up. In Edinburgh one night when I was going to a Hearts game.
Really?
I was going to a Hearts-Hibs derby because I thought I've got to go and see
Yeah.
one of these derbies.
Yeah.
And who should I see walking almost hand in hand with Vladimir Romanov, who had just bought Hearts, who's the Lithuanian
joking?
businessman,
Really?
was Will Stewart,
Good God.
who had become his special advisor.
That's absolutely amazing. Well, every time I go to Moscow now, I see Will because, when I was on the Express, Will was...
Every time you go to Moscow?
Yeah.
How often do you go to Moscow?
Well, I haven't been for a couple of years, I have to admit. But he was education correspondent. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
Will,
but now I think he's moved into the special advisor area.
Well, he still has bylines in newspapers.
Yeah.
For the benefit of our listeners, you still see his name over stories,
Yeah.
involved in Russian things. But he does get inside information. But I mean, Will's a remarkable man. He went over there. He created an agency called East West. So we had an office in London, an office in Moscow. And then I went over there one time and he introduced me to his fiancée. And then it was his wife. And then he had children. It was absolutely amazing the way he integrated himself into Russian society. I mean, he taught me how to hail a taxi.
And how do you hail a taxi?
You just stand in the middle of the road and wave a car down. Simple as that. And
It's a bit like you do here, then.
No, any car. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, any car?
Yeah, and you give
Well,
them...
not a taxi?
No, it doesn't
That
have to
sounds
be.
a bit dangerous.
Well,
How do you know whose car you're getting into?
Well, it just happens. It's just that way. You just have to weigh it up. If the guy's got no... this is one
That
way...
sounds mad.
No,
Are you
no.
sure he wasn't trying to get rid of you?
No.
Yeah, here's a good idea, Mike.
no.
Go and stand in the middle of the road and just hail any car that comes. And the next time I see you, you'll be in a gulag somewhere.
He told me the things you have to look out for.
Well, he must have been trying to get rid of you.
No, he told me the points to
is
look out
very funny.
for. He told me the points you have to look out for. He said, never get into a car that's got no windscreen wipers. No, seriously.
Well, that's probably a good tip.
Well, in Moscow, if it's snowing and they haven't got any windscreen wipers, it's hard to get anywhere.
Yeah.
But it means...
Well, like other tips include don't get into a car that's on fire.
No, the point is...
Don't get
that
into a
if-
car with a guy that's holding a gun.
No, one form of punishment for miscreant motorists is they take your windscreen wipers off you.
Do they?
Yes. Well, because literally...
That's a good idea,
I know,
actually.
and that's...
They could do that here.
Well, they could do. But you see, that's why sometimes in Moscow you see people driving around and at the same time they're literally leaning out of the open window and using
Wiping
their
the
hand
window.
as a windscreen wiper. It's quite dangerous, actually, because you're not
Sounds
looking at the
very dangerous.
road. And the other thing is... Never get in a car that hasn't got a number plate, because they also take the number plate off if you're a miscreant driver, and if a policeman spots you driving without a number plate, you go to jail.
Why don't you just call for a cab?
Well, it's difficult. It's a difficult society. There aren't any sort of regular cab companies or anything like that. I mean, there are now.
I bet there are now.
There's limos and all sorts of things
Yeah.
for the very rich. But the poor guys, I mean, you can do anything in Moscow with a few American dollars. Anything at all. Wave a few American dollars around and it's easy.
Yeah. Well, we didn't plan to
Absolutely
talk
easy.
about Russia quite as much as this, but
No. But that was from Russia with Love.
That was from Russia with Love. There will be a James Bond quiz coming up. What I
Okay.
do want to talk about those holidays because
yeah.
I'm going on one. I want to know when
Definitely.
you're going to have one because I don't think you've had a holiday for years.
Well-
I want to know why. And
well-
also, you'd have to go on your own presumably as well.
Well,
When?
there's nothing wrong with going on my own. In fact, I was reading a profile on Miranda Hart
Yeah.
just this week. The comedienne lady. She always goes on holiday on her own. It's the only
That
way to
doesn't
relax.
surprise me.
And by the way, I will have a conversation with you because you're a father of two young lads, right? Can you really, as a couple, go on holiday with two young lads and relax? You can't. You've got to watch them every second of every
I
day.
have no trouble relaxing on holiday. I have no trouble relaxing even sitting here with you.
Oh, I know that. I mean, you're more laid back than anybody I know.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
to
a
the
good
point
thing.
where sometimes
Well, I haven't had
your
85 cans
apathy,
of Red Bull.
Your apathy
I haven't had-
irritates me.
I haven't had all that Red Bull. By
Your
the way,
apathy irritates to the point where I feel like, I don't know.
have you seen the time?
Sticking a pin in
Look
you.
into the light for a minute.
Oh, yeah.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes. It's a summer special. Loads more coming up.
The Two Mikes Summer Special.
Talk Sport. On air, online and on TV at Freeview Channel 723.
I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. The Two Mikes will continue after the 10 o'clock news and sports headlines right here with Kate Partridge.
Thank you. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the campaign in Gaza will continue for as long as necessary. The pledge was made in a TV broadcast despite reports of Israeli troops withdrawing from Gaza. 31 tunnels running between the region and Israel have been destroyed. A man whose body parts were found at a Bristol recycling plant has been identified as 34-year-old Matthew Simons. Police say Mr Simons was of no fixed address and his death is being treated as unexplained. Officers are now focusing their investigation in Swindon, 45 miles from where the remains were found. TV and radio presenter Mike Smith has died at the age of 59. The former Top of the Pops and Late Late Breakfast show star, who was married to TV personality Sarah Greene, died in hospital on Friday following complications after major heart surgery. A Virgin train travelling from Glasgow to London was stranded north of Crewe for hours this afternoon because there was no power in the overhead lines. A diesel train sent to tow it back to Crewe failed in its task. Passengers were given food and water until supplies ran out and were finally transferred to another train. And in Glasgow, Botswana's former world and Commonwealth 400-metre champion Amantli Moncho has been provisionally suspended after failing a dope test. A further test will now take place on Monday.
Talk Sport weather.
With ATS Euromaster. Planning a staycation? Visit us first for caravan or motorhome tyres and maintenance.
Rain, sometimes heavy, continues to move north but increasingly dry and clear in the south.
Talk Sport. Sports update.
Manchester City have yet to comment on reports that Frank Lampard will join the Premier League champions on loan next season. The 36-year-old former Chelsea midfielder and record scorer is thought to be heading to Eastlands after signing for City-owned MLS side New York City. Meanwhile, City are taking on Olympiacos in their International Champions Cup match in Minneapolis, where it's currently 2-2, while Manchester United are taking on Real Madrid in Michigan, having won all three of their matches on tour. Cristiano Ronaldo has been rested, and with more, here's TalkSport's Sam Matterface.
Yeah, it's half-time. Real Madrid 1, Manchester United 2. Entertaining first half in which United very much looked the superior side. And they took the lead after 21 minutes with a stunning goal. Valencia, Fletcher, Rooney and Welbeck all involved in a slick one-touch move that started in the right-back position and was finished off by the left wing-back, Ashley Young. Real Madrid equalised with the Gareth Bale penalty. He tested De Gea with an overhead kick too. But United went in at the break with the lead thanks to Ashley Young's cross-come shot that was curled past Iker Casillas. So at the break, it's Real Madrid 1, Manchester United 2.
Well, meanwhile, striker Yaya Sanogo scored 4 as Arsenal swept aside Benfica 5-1 in the Emirates Cup. But Newcastle lost 3-1 to Malaga in Germany. After a rain delay, the third round of the World Golf Championships in Ohio has been completed. Sergio Garcia still leads on 14 under par, but now by 3 shots from Rory McIlroy. And Warwickshire are through to the finals of cricket's T20 Blast after a 19-run victory at Essex. Lancashire also qualified after winning by 1 run at home to Glamorgan. And Surrey went through earlier with a 3-wicket win over Worcestershire at the Oval. And all the latest transfer news is on our website, talksport.com.
The Two Mics Summer Special.
The green plastic watering can for a fake Chinese rubber plant and a fake plastic girl.
This is the Two Mics Summer Special. I'm Mike Graham. He is Mike Parry. We've been talking about a great many things, including spying for the KGB. Coming up in this hour, we're going to be talking about the price of diesel and why motorists have been completely and utterly screwed by this government.
You are right.
Once told us that diesel was a great thing. Now apparently it's a bad thing. I can't keep up, but we'll be talking to an expert about that. We'll keep you updated with the second half of Manchester United and Real Madrid, of course, as well. Manchester City is drawing 2-2 as well at the moment. We'll bring you any details from that. And, of course, we can't wait for the updates from Toby Gillies of the Commonwealth Games. I'm really excited about that hockey game that he's going to tell us what about.
England are in it, aren't they? England, Scotland,
remember.
is it?
Yeah.
Is it? England somewhere.
Now, what do you think of this music?
Well, I don't know who this is.
You don't know who this is?
It's too melodic, it's too slow, it's too ballady, and it's too not me.
This band called Radiohead.
Radiohead.
You told me the other day you just discovered them.
Well, I have. I have just discovered them. In fact, I've just discovered I've got one of their CDs, actually.
Have you?
But I didn't know I had one. It's the Radiohead's greatest hits.
Right.
Now, if this is Radiohead, they don't sound like a radio to me. Do you see what I mean?
They're not supposed to sound like a radio.
Well,
they don't sound like a head either.
Well, why are they called Radiohead then? What I'm saying is, I got the impression on radio. That means there'll be music blaring out of the radio. You know what I mean? Attacking all your senses.
Radio plays all sorts of music.
Attacking all your senses and actually getting you to feel some response to. I don't feel a response to this. This to me sounds like a bloke lying on a riverbank with an acoustic guitar, strumming a few notes to his girlfriend, who's sitting there feeding him not jam sandwiches, but like corn cakes or something like that. You know what I mean?
Corn cakes.
Yeah, like she's got a sort of a gingham denim skirt on, and he's got a straw in his hat and all that kind of stuff. That's
straw in his hat.
That gives
or
me
even a straw hat.
A straw hat. Yeah, that gives me the impression of what's going on.
Well, I'm glad you've discovered Radiohead to such a great degree. You should listen to more of their music because they're very good. Now,
do you think that's good?
I think it's a great song. Yeah.
Well, but it's too slow. How can you get motivated by that sort of song?
You don't like slow Beatles songs, then?
Well, there aren't any slow Beatles songs.
There aren't any slow Beatles songs.
I don't think so. I mean, Let It Be is a ballad, I agree, but that was the last...
That's not slow?
It was the last Beatles song. And anyway...
Blackbird's not slow?
No, it's not. Blackbird sing in the dead of night.
You don't think that's slow?
Paul McCartney claims he wrote that about the civil rights movement in the American Deep South.
Yeah, right. What about Yesterday?
Yesterday.
Is that not slow?
That was originally called Scrambled Eggs anyway.
I know that, but it's a slow song.
Well, I don't like it much. I don't like it much.
Don't like it?
And in fact, John Lennon didn't even want it on the Help album anyway. He said it wasn't a Beatles song either.
Imagine's a slow song as well.
I'm not a huge fan of Imagine, really. Not a huge fan. It's said to be Lennon's greatest solo record, but not for me.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about solos. Let's talk about the solo holiday thing, because you, I presume, are somebody like Miranda Hart, who you were talking about just before the news, who would have to go on holiday solo. You were saying to me it must be difficult to go on holiday with children.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. It's a different kind of holiday. Before you have kids, you go on all the romantic holidays.
You
can go to places like Pompeii and walk around. Yeah. You can do all kinds of stuff.
But you go on holiday, you want to wind down. So
not always, not everybody.
Well, here you do a bit of sort of.
I'll be going down water slides.
Yeah, okay, well, that's all right. So some people, they mooch around a bit, do a bit of sunbathing over lunchtime or something like that. I mean, I wouldn't ever dream of doing any sunbathing.
Well, that's why I don't think you don't really go on summer holidays,
No,
do you?
I don't want to go in the sun.
Because you don't like the heat. Why don't you get away from the heat here and go somewhere in the southern hemisphere where it's winter?
I do. I've been to Buenos Aires at this time of the year to get away from it. Buenos Aires is a beautiful city, by the way.
It is, isn't it? Yeah,
the Argentinians are, being friendly to us, which...
they are normally, aren't they?
Yeah, generally speaking, they're a fine race of people. It's just that there's a few political hotheads there. It's all about the Falklands, obviously. But anyway, point of my story is, man... what was I talking about?
What is the point of your story?
Holidays, solar holidays. Right, now what I was going to say is, then
you can also get very cheap solar holidays because you can wait till the last minute. See, I can't do that. I
wouldn't do that. No.
During the school
holidays. I don't
holiday.
go on cheap holidays because if you go on cheap holidays, I'm afraid
I don't mean
you have to mix with cheap people.
I don't mean it's a cheap holiday.
I don't like cheap people.
I don't mean that. I mean you can have an expensive holiday for less money because it's a last minute deal.
Yeah. What I'm saying is these, the thing about the parent thing first, right? So then you and your lady could say to yourself 2 or 3 o'clock, let's go and have a bit of lunch, and then you can get stuck into a few sherbets, and then you take them into 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
This is your idea of how you spend your time.
Hang on. Then the sun goes down, and you watch the sun go green over the horizon, and then ping, it disappears.
But if you've been drinking all afternoon, you'll be going green about the same time.
It probably would as well, yeah. But what I'm saying is, you see, I read these horrifying stories about kids who wander off and all that kind of stuff. So I imagine...
Oh, thanks. Well, that's really cheered me up.
Hang on. I've got to tell you these things.
What do you mean?
I imagine you've got to watch your children 24 hours a day.
No, not necessarily.
Well, who looks after them then?
Well, it depends where you go. If you go to one of these kind of what I'm doing, which is one of these all-inclusive kind of resorts, it's basically there are so many security people wandering about. It's a gated community, effectively.
I'm glad to hear that.
So everybody who's in there is accounted for. They don't let anybody in who's just
that's good.
a member of the riffraff. You're right. I mean, if it was a situation where we were, not in one of those places, and we were just wandering around a city and that kind of thing. But you don't have that. The kids are too young for that kind of holiday.
Well, that's good. Now, as for Amanda Hart, I read what she said. She goes on her own because she can do it, and I totally agree with her. Now, I went on holiday once, right? And I went to the Algarve with a new girlfriend, and it was the biggest mistake of my life. I'd only known this girl for about a month, and then in a fit of sort of devotion to prove how attached to her I was, I said, why don't we go...
That's quite unusual, isn't it, to go on holiday with somebody so soon after meeting them? Because
of course
going on holiday with somebody from the opposite sex is a way of finding out immediately whether you get on.
Well, that was the problem.
And you didn't find out?
Well, I did. I found out within 2 days.
Right.
And I said, look, I'm terribly sorry. This is... And thing is, we went to a place in the Algarve where a lot of friends had gone.
Yeah.
A lot of people from Daily Express, actually.
Yeah. It's a big golfing destination.
Yeah, big golf destination. And was it Albufeira? Is that the place?
Albufeira. Or you go to Villamoura.
Those kind of places.
Valdelobo.
And the only thing I can remember about going to Portugal is I seem to eat sardines every day for about 2 weeks, which is far too long.
Their sardines are brilliant, though. They're big, aren't they?
Anyway, after 2 days, I had to say to this young lady, and I feel terrible about it. It was all my fault. I said, look, I'm awfully sorry. I said, but I don't want to be with you any longer because...
After 2 days?
Yeah. Well,
Well, I'm glad you took your time.
No, I didn't. So...
She must have been devastated.
Well, she was. But fortunately, because they were friends, she was a friend.
I suppose she had the guide dog to look after her.
I shan't rise to that.
Okay.
She had, like, girlfriends there, so they were consoling her and comforted her. But I moved out into another room. I went and got another room. I mean, I wanted to fly home, to be honest, but they all said, well, that's so terrible for her. I said, well, you know,
Was this somebody you worked with?
No, it wasn't. No. She was a banker, actually.
All right.
She worked
so you
in a
didn't have
bank.
to, like, go back and see her afterwards?
No. But what
That's a terrible thing to do.
I know it's terrible, and I feel, you know, I didn't know what to do. So I said, look, I'll go home and you can stay. And the friend said...
Did you give her some money to spend as well? Because that would have been the ultimate insult.
No.
Just, like, thrown her some money.
No, actually, it was more or less things were paid for anyway. In this hotel, I paid all the bills, you know, for the dinner and drinks and all that. But what I'm trying to say is that her friends said, no, please don't go. I said, why? I said, well, if her friends at home suddenly realise that you've flown home and abandoned her and left her here, you know, it'd be terrible for her. It'd be devastating. She'll never recover. So I stayed for the rest of the holiday, but as I say, I got a separate room, and we were quite civil to each other, well, until she had a few drinks. Then she started throwing things at me and you know, calling me really vile names and insulting me and all that kind of stuff. Well, it wasn't my fault.
Well, of course it was
wasn't
your
my fault.
Why didn't you just stick it out?
Well, I couldn't, because I couldn't bear being in the same room as her. I got claustrophobic.
Did she know? I mean, did she feel the same way, or was she enamoured with you?
She was pretty enamoured with me.
Was she?
To be honest.
Yeah.
So I felt a bit rough.
There's nothing worse than that, is there?
And you see, the other thing is it caused a problem because there were three couples, you see. So the lads were sympathetic to me a little bit, not overly, because their girlfriends were saying I'm a brute.
So when you went down for dinner with the other two couples, was this woman just sitting in a room having room service then?
No, she went with everybody else, and I didn't go.
So where did you go?
I went to a pizza place.
On your own?
Yeah. What's the hut thing called?
The hut thing? What, Pizza Hut?
Yeah, Pizza Hut. Yeah, I used to go to Pizza Hut.
There's nothing like going abroad and going to Pizza Hut.
But I prefer pizza anyway to sardines, to be honest, so it was better.
That's
Funny
enough, I know why you don't go anywhere.
Funny enough, when you just said about the KGB, there was a KFC there as well. I went there as well. Yeah, I used to go and have the chicken in the KFC.
You shouldn't go abroad for that. You see, Paul has tweeted at Mike Parry, at IRMG, as Paul, he goes on holiday on his own, has he ever had a holiday romance? Because lots of people have.
Yeah, I've had a few holiday
Presumably
romances.
that would have been your opportunity when you were on your own.
Well, no, because that would have been rubbing a nose in it. That would have been awful. And anyway, I'm not like you, Mike. I don't have the moral turpitude of a louse.
Neither do I.
So I don't go around having
I've never actually
relationships
had a
with
holiday
women
romance.
that last 48 hours.
I've never done that. I've never had a holiday romance.
I had a holiday romance once because I tell you what happened. It's quite interesting actually. I went with some friends from school. We just finished our A levels, and we went to Mallorca. And we were all so excited because, I think it was the first time we were on holiday on our own rather than with our parents.
Yeah.
Something like that. I think it was 17, I think. And so we got off the plane and we dumped the bags in the hotel, didn't even unpack them, and said, come on, let's get out on the front in somewhere like Arundel or something like that, Anyway, you walk into this bar, and I'm walking down to the other end of the bar, and there's a fellow there walking towards me, smiling, and I thought, I wonder if I know this man. And all of a sudden, bang! I mean, all the lights went out. I'm not joking, and I found myself...
He just hit you?
Yeah, he smashed me in the face. You can see a scar there above my eye. See?
Oh, yeah.
See? Right?
That's quite a big scar.
Well, he split my head open, and...
with one punch?
Well, what he'd done is...
Was he a boxer?
No, he'd taken his belt off, and he'd wrapped his belt round his fist.
Blimey.
So the buckle of his belt was on his top of his fist, and that's what he hit me with. Bang! Yeah.
He must have done something terrible.
No, I didn't. What happened was he was like a gigolo type waiter, picking up English girls all over the place. And one English girl had told him to get lost, that she was on holiday with her boyfriend, who was a really nice guy, but for some unknown reason, she told him he had ginger hair. And there weren't many people in Arundel at that time of the year who had ginger hair.
Going around whacking anyone with ginger hair.
Well, for some unknown reason, he mistook me for this girl's boyfriend. So, bang, he knocked me flying. Well, I had to go.
Did you go to hospital?
Yeah, I was taken to hospital in a police car, and I had to have my head stitched up. And the guy who hit me, he got jailed. I had to go to court and everything, and he got. But it was instant justice. He got jailed for 3 months. About 2 days later. My
goodness, your holidays done. Now I really do know why you don't go on holiday.
Well, I mean, I like a holiday same as everybody else, except that I do find, and I find this in my everyday life, that if you're not working, there's a massive guilt complex within you, isn't there?
No.
There is.
Not at all.
There should be.
Well, there are other things in life than working.
Well, I know there are, but at the end of the day, you feel to yourself, was I put on this earth not to do anything or to do something? And I think we're all put on this earth to do something.
Well, when you're on holiday with, as you said, with kids, you're never not doing anything.
Well,
you're
that's
never
true.
just doing nothing at
Well,
all.
no, you're providing a service then to your family, so that's okay.
Exactly. Mike, Porky Parry and myself, Mike Graham, coming up are going to be talking about postmen because we've decided we think that postmen are rather much more important than they're being treated. We've also got the diesel conversation to have, and we'll talk some more about Manchester United and Louis van Gaal. I've got some things to tell you about him.
Louis van
This
Gaal.
is Talk Sport.
The Two Mikes Summer Special.
Who's flashing the cash? Who's waiting to make a last-minute dash? Get your fix of the transfer mix with transfer updates throughout the day on Talk Sport and online anytime at talksport.com. Talk Sport on air, online and on TV at Sky Channel 0108.
See, Manchester City game's gone to penalties now. But
Penalties.
We'll keep you updated on that one. Let's go across now to Toby Gillies for another Commonwealth Games update.
Let's do that.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you about the hockey final that I know you've been on tenterhooks waiting to know the outcome of.
Can't wait.
It was gold for Australia. England snatching defeat, frankly, from the jaws of victory in pretty extraordinary circumstances. They were 1-0 up against the defending the champions, with 24 seconds left. They gave away a penalty corner from it, and with 11 seconds remaining, the ball went into the back of the England goal. So we went to the shuffles. Both scored their first two. England then missing their next two. Australia scoring 2 of their last 3 to take the gold medal. That was a tough one to take for many of those teary-eyed English players. There's also been a bronze for Gabby Adcock and Lauren Smith in the badminton women's doubles. They came from behind to win 2-1 in that. And that's basically the end of today's Commonwealth Games action. So a quick mention of the medals table. England top it, 56 golds and 165 medals in total. Australia second, 45 golds and 132 in total. Then Canada third, Scotland fourth. They've got 19 golds now and 52 medals in total. And just some select others. Wales are in 12th. They've got 4 gold medals and 35 in total. Northern Ireland are up to 15th after winning their first 2 gold medals of the Games today, both in the boxing. They have 12 medals in total. And if I head all the way down to 29th, we've got the Isle of Man with their solitary silver medal that puts them in joint 29th position. That's the end of the Commonwealth Games for today. We've got the final day on TalkSport tomorrow.
Glasgow 2014 Commonwealth Games update on Talk Sport with Ford. Hashtag play your part.
Another Bond theme.
It is another Bond theme. You know this one?
You only live twice.
Why did it take you so long?
Well, because I had
What
to.
do you think? You only live thrice?
No. This is
You
the
only
one...
live nice?
Now this is the one.
Who's singing this then?
You only live twice.
You don't know, do you?
Well, hang on. It wasn't Shirley Bassey.
No.
She sung "Diamonds Are Forever" and "Goldfinger." So this must have been. Diana Rigg was in this one.
Was she?
No, she wasn't.
I don't think she was.
No, she was in the George
You're going to
Lazenby
go
one.
so badly in this
No,
test.
hang on.
No, I haven't got time now. We've got
This
to talk
is
about
the one where he
Manchester City lost on penalties there, by the way.
lost on penalties today, yeah. By the way, in the hockey, just explain for the benefit of our millions of listeners what the shuffles are when it's a draw in hockey.
The shuffles?
Yes, the shuffles.
I've no idea.
Well, didn't you listen to our correspondent?
No, I wasn't listening to anything he said, no.
Who said that Australia equalised late into the game,
Right.
and then they went through the process of the shuffles.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Well, do you know what it is?
Of course I know what it
Well,
is.
you better explain it then.
Well, I'm not going to bother explaining it
You don't
now.
know what it is either, do you?
Of course I do. It's lost its impact now, isn't it? Because you were supposed to, illustrate your knowledge
Has it got something to do
all
with the
things.
pack of cards?
No, nothing to do with the pack of cards. Of course it has. It's all to do with sort of short corners and all that sort of
Is
stuff.
it?
Yeah, of course it is.
Oh,
yeah.
so it's like a penalty shootout in hockey?
Sort of.
Is that what you're saying?
That's right, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
maybe somebody else can explain it to us.
Yeah,
They can explain it. You give us a call, 08717 223344. We're going to be taking some calls actually coming up on the whole diesel front because there's going to be taxi drivers affected by this diesel increase. There's going to be van drivers, and I guess there's going to be other businesses like postal vans, I presume, are going to get hammered, because driving into central London, and it's not just central London, I think there's congestion charge in Manchester now as well, isn't there?
The only other place I know is Durham. And last time I was there, it was £2 for the city centre.
Okay, but I think more and more places are getting it. But this diesel thing, which is all down to the European Union, they're going to start putting prices up for cars to go into cities.
It is so outrageous, and it's crookery.
Yeah.
It's crookery, because this all started... Yeah, it all started...
It's another one of your made-up words, isn't it?
It's crookery, I'm telling you, because they say, oh, well, it's to try and keep traffic volumes down in major cities.
It doesn't work, though.
Well,
I mean, almost everyone I know drives a diesel car.
Since when have they ever given us the details of how many cars come into central London now compared to before I mean, they say it's a traffic calming. It's not. It's to raise money for ignorant, thick-headed, useless politicians to spend on their pet projects, which usually involve disastrous social engineering functions,
I'll tell you what,
which makes everybody's life a misery.
Driving in tonight, I mean, people may not want to think about, a specifically geographical area of South London where the TalkSport studios are. But, I mean, I tell you what, every night I come in here, it's not as bad, obviously, because it's much later at night. But the roads around here are constantly being dug up, constantly being closed.
Of course they are.
Everywhere you go, you can't go that way because it's been closed. I had the same problem.
Diversions all over the place. You're absolutely right.
Just closed roads. The A21, the road that I go up and down, is going to be shut overnight from 8 o'clock, right, for Monday night, Tuesday night, and Saturday night. They're just going to shut the road. Now, 8 o'clock is not a late time to be driving.
No,
people go down to the coast for the day, maybe have a little bit of late lunch, early dinner, something like that. 8 o'clock at night, if they're driving back to London, they're not going to be able to drive back at all.
You're talking about has horrified me. Another £10 a day if you've got to do... I mean, that charge started at £6 when Ken Livingstone first introduced it. And it's slowly crept up to until a few weeks ago, it was £10.
Yeah.
It's now £11.50. Yeah. So it's doubled to all intents and purposes.
And when they add this £10 for having a diesel car, £21 a day.
Yeah, it's quadruple. Now, the other thing is, last time they put it up, it went from £10 to £11.50.
Yeah.
You work that out in percentages against the cost of living, it's horrendous.
Yeah.
Because it's 15/100ths.
Hey?
So it's 15%.
It's 15%, yeah.
15%.
It's easy, isn't it? It's easy to work out a percentage of 10.
But if you didn't pay on the day, in the old charge, that was £10, then you paid 12 the following day.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't pay... Well, how much is it a day now? Now, if you don't pay £11.50 on the day,
it jumps up twice, doesn't it?
You pay 14 the following day. So that's
if you don't pay it.
That's about, a £2.50
if you miss the fact that you didn't get a reminder in the post, because sometimes the post is very unreliable.
It's £130.
Hang on, sometimes the post is very unreliable.
Yeah,
right. It goes up to like some ludicrous amount of money.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
it is honestly, and it's a contract.
Yeah,
and by the way, I don't know how the mayor of this city, London, how the Prime Minister...
Bojo,
are always saying we've got to stimulate growth and get business going again.
Though, Boris, isn't he?
Yeah, but how can you get business going when you're crippling the people who are actually trying to create the wealth? I mean, I don't know.
I think I should charge cyclists £10 to come into town.
I do as well.
That'd be a better idea.
I do. When you think the amount of wear and tear cyclists take out of roads, it's horrendous, isn't it, what they do to road cyclists? They don't pay any taxes, they've got no insurance. We've been through all that before, but it really...
I think a levy on them would be better. Really, but let me tell you this. I want to talk about post offices and post office drivers.
I was telling you about it.
An amazing story this week about a guy who actually saved a woman from a burning house.
I know.
And he was a postman. Brilliant.
Do you know what? I love this story, mate, because, and I was telling you about it, wasn't I, earlier? Now, I think postmen are the best of us. I really do. Let me read this to you. Postman Phil Turner has been hailed to here after breaking down the door of a blazing home and rescuing a mother before calmly carrying on, delivering his mail. Mr. Turner, 35, helped as a neighbour set up a ladder to rescue 2 children in an upstairs room at the home in Goulburn, Greater Manchester. Now, this doesn't surprise me at all, this postman did it. The postmen are the best of us. They're also very dedicated listeners of TalkSport, Mike. You know that, don't you?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, millions of them listen to The Breakfast Show because, of course, it's their time of day.
They're out doing their rounds.
Yeah. Millions of them listen to us because they work as sorters in the middle of the night.
Their job has got harder as well, because I tell you what, I've got a great deal of respect for postmen individually.
Absolutely.
But the post office in general is a shambles.
It is a shambles.
You know, it was sold off by the government, and even that they got wrong. And people who invested in it have not got anything like the amount of money they were supposed to get
Nearly
back.
13 shillings for a stamp now. How about that? Used to be a few pence.
I never use it.
Yeah, well, anyway, look.
When was the last time you bought a stamp?
This morning, because I
Really?
sent my nephew
you're very
two
old-fashioned,
Christmas
though.
cards.
I don't. I mean,
No, I didn't. I sent him
Christmas cards.
No, I sent him 2 birthday cards.
Well, there's nothing like getting in early.
Yeah, well, exactly. No, I sent him birthday cards, not Christmas cards. Now, let me just tell you about...
And when's their birthday?
His birthday's Monday.
You think it'll get there?
Yeah, well, it's 12:30 deadline today, so it should get there.
It won't get there. You've got no chance.
Well, anyway, look.
The only way that I guarantee things is, I had to send something. I had to send a mobile phone back to the manufacturer. There's something wrong with it, right? Took it to a post office, and it was in a jiffy bag. And the girl behind the counter said, "Oh, what is it?" I said, "It's a mobile phone. You'll have to put it in a box." She said.
A box?
I said, "Well, I can't. I've got a box to put it in. Why have I got to put it in a box?" She
Well, you
said,
have to buy a box
she
in the
read
post
these
office.
regulations that said
terrible.
because it's got a battery in it. In order to make
could
sure
go
that
on
it can be
fire.
Well, like a box is going to stop it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I said, well, I haven't got a box.
In
And
fact,
luckily,
a jiffy bag's more like to stop a fire than a box,
Yeah.
because a box is made of cardboard.
and luckily there was a guy who actually came back and from the back room, and he was a bit more helpful. He said, I think we might have a box. So he actually took it out of the jiffy bag, put it in a box, did the whole address thing and everything like that. I had no idea it was this regulation.
Very helpful.
I said, look, the battery doesn't work. That's why I'm sending it back.
But I find Postman very helpful indeed. Now, first of all, I think it's a great job because they get a free bike, and I'd love to ride around on a bike in the middle of the early hours. Not the early hours.
You could do a postman's job, couldn't you?
I
Because
wouldn't
you're
mind.
often up at that time.
I wouldn't mind. So 4:30, 5 o'clock, you're out on a morning like this, nice air and birds singing, all that kind of stuff, cycling around. Now, I also think, and I'm, very serious about this, Mike, I think that the network of postmen we have in this country is massively underused, because they could be the fourth emergency service. They are the ears and eyes of every community, as illustrated by this chap, Phil Turner, who rescued this woman from this house in Manchester. Now, that means they're aware...
I'm sure the union would have something to say about that.
No, I think they'd want to be helpful. You see, I think there should be a huge liaison between postmen and policemen, because policemen don't get out on the beat anymore, but postmen are on the beat all the time. So postmen see things. They notice, for instance, when, something's a bit odd about a house. Is the door being left open? Is the garden gate been taken off or something like that? You know what I mean? They notice all these things, and they could report that back to the police if there was a channel of communication between the two. For instance, in this day and age, why can't postmen all wear head cameras? Like policemen do sometimes when they go into action. Because I bet you something, we don't know that crimes are taking place most of the time, but if they are, and later they're reported, the police could then go to the postman who was on the beat of that particular street where the crime took place and said, give us your camera.
What a ridiculous
No,
idea.
it's not a ridiculous idea.
Absolutely
Give us your
ridiculous.
camera, we'll have a look at them, and then suddenly they see a bloke running out of a gate at a house down the road and all this kind of stuff.
He's gone out for a morning run.
Well, no.
Next thing you know, the squad will turn up.
No.
There'll be SWAT teams all over the place.
I'm telling you, it's a wasted resource. They are a network of people with eyes and ears. They have a footfall unparalleled to any profession in this country, including the police. And we don't have any milkmen anymore. They've all disappeared. When's the last time you saw a milk float?
Yesterday.
Well, you don't see many. And I really believe that this country, and we could be the first in the world to do this, should utilise postmen as reserve policemen. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
What do you call reserve policemen? Special constables?
Community policemen.
Community policemen or something like that, because they're on the road all the time, they're seeing everything, and they're great people. Postmen have really good principles about how they live their lives. They're fit and healthy because they walk around carrying big bags of mail. They get on their bikes and cycle. They get out of bed early in the morning because they've got determination to work.
Time. Just look at the time.
They're good people.
I'm going to stop you. They may be good people, but that's enough. That's enough about postmen. I don't agree with you. I think you're mad.
The Two Mikes Summer Special.
You haven't got a Jaguar anymore, have you?
No, I've got a Mercedes.
A smoking Mercedes. You know who that song's by?
Yeah, that's Madness.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well
yeah.
done. Got
And
great
Suggs.
Got some great tweets coming in here. A lot of people disagree with you and agree with me about your ridiculous idea about postmen, right?
No, they don't. I've got a load of posties here saying this is great.
All right, well,
and
you
all
can
that.
do yours in a minute.
Yeah.
Here's the first one from Paul, who has tweeted this at IROMG. He says, can we organise a whip round for the guy who punched Mike Parry on holiday? Which is the best one of the night so far.
You think that's
I think that's funny. I think that's funny.
Well,
Well, it's a long time ago.
advocating violence.
No, I'm not
and-
advocating
Yeah.
violence. Don't be so
Yeah.
prudish. Now, here's one from Tim, who says, as a proud postman, I refuse to wear a bloody camera on my head.
Yeah.
So there's your idea out the window.
I bet he
And
wouldn't.
James says this,
Yeah.
sadly, Royal Mail are phasing out bicycles for vans and trolleys.
Well, do you know why that is? Because people aren't selling as many letters, they're selling more parcels, and the Royal Mail want to take a bit of the parcel market so they don't sort of, fall behind in their revenues. And so they've got to give them trolleys and vans and all that kind of stuff because you can't carry parcels around in a bag across your shoulder like you can with
Well, now they've got
these
little trolleys that they push around, haven't they?
Yeah, but you know what? They're getting them nicked regularly. People nick them. Have you noticed that?
Well, they're not be very good as members of the Fourth Emergency Service, then, will they?
Well, no. Haven't you noticed that when they bring these trolleys around, they also have that huge sort of yellow type cable thing, and they have to actually chain them to people's gates when they're going up and down the street, so that somebody doesn't come along and nick them. People do steal them. Can you imagine? What would you do with it? Who would you flog it to if you nicked it? I mean,
I suppose people
buy
go
it?
through all the mail and try and see if there's any credit cards and stuff
so,
inside.
yeah.
Anyway, we were talking about the post office because they're going to be part of the huge number of commercial vehicles, I presume, that are going to end up getting charged an extra amount of money for driving around this city and many others. And in order to get the lowdown on why this new policy is being brought in because of what's going on in Europe, we're going to talk to Nick Collins, who actually wrote a piece about this for The Telegraph recently. Nick, he's the transport correspondent, I should say, for The Telegraph. Very good evening to you.
Evening.
Thanks for joining us. We're both kind of staggered by the idea that just a few years ago, diesel was supposed to be the answer, and everybody was encouraged to buy diesel cars instead of petrol cars, and diesel was actually then made cheaper than petrol. Suddenly now, diesel is kind of, the devil's fuel.
Yeah, well, I think this all goes back to the early 2000s, really, when the government decided that it needed to tackle the levels of carbon dioxide, to combat global warming. And so they decided to introduce a tax incentive scheme whereby engines that gave off the most carbon dioxide would get charged the most on their tax on their car, and the ones that gave off the least would get charged the least. Now, what this really amounted to was an incentive for people to switch to diesel, because diesel is a more efficient fuel. It gives off about 20% less carbon dioxide than a petrol car. So the result was that, the number of diesel drivers went up from about 1.5 million sort of 10, 15 years ago to 11 million.
That's
phenomenally
incredible,
successful.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Phenomenally successful in that regard. But, of course, diesel, while it gives off less CO2, it gives off a lot more other pollutants, nitrogen dioxide, for example, which are the causes of the kind of local pollution that you get around roads. And then that's now reached a real crisis point.
Well, yeah, but Nick, it's not our fault. I mean, for instance, right, I used to drive petrol cars. Then Gordon Brown, I think, was the first Chancellor to introduce the incentive to drive diesel. So then I had a series of Jaguars, which are all diesel. I've now got a Merc, it's diesel. Am I now expected to go and flog my new Merc and buy a petrol engine car again because somebody in Brussels has decided that we got it all wrong 12 or 13 years ago and diesel is very poisonous?
Well, absolutely. I think that's how a lot of people are feeling. People feel like they've been lied to, frankly. I mean, the government said, 10, 15 years ago, petrol is a dirtier fuel. Buy diesel and you'll not only save money, but you'll be doing your bit for the environment as well. And I think a lot of people really feel like they've been given a rough deal here because, when these new rules come in sort of 2020 in London, I mean, any diesel car that's more than about 5 years old is going to be affected by this charge.
And this is all down, Nick, just so if people are not familiar with why this is happening, it's because of these new emission targets that keep seemingly being readjusted every single year in Brussels, and Britain always seems to be failing at them.
Yeah, well, actually, I think we're sort of dozens of cities across the UK are still missing targets which we were meant to be meeting in 2010. And the latest projections from the government say that there are about 18 cities, I think, around the country which won't be meeting them until 2020, some of them until 2030. So we're absolutely miles behind where we need to be on that front. But the point is, I think the quarrel that people have with the government is the way that this has been done, because, as you were saying, people were incentivized to buy diesel and now being punished. And I think a lot of motoring groups feel, why don't you introduce something like a scrappage scheme to encourage people to get rid of their diesel cars? Give them more of a carrot approach than a stick approach, if you like.
Quite apart from...
There you go, you can scrap your new Mercedes.
Can you just shut up while I talk to an expert on this, please? Nick, the other thing is, diesel made great cars very uncool. When I suddenly reached the stage in life where I could buy a sleek limo, right, one of the great advantages as a kid was seeing a sleek limo purr by and, you could hardly hear the engine and all that. Whereas diesel cars, even if you've got a limo, like a nice Jag or something like that, sounds like a Spitfire coming down the street. So it completely ruined the image of the cool car anyway. And now they're telling us we've got to go back to it.
Well, I think what the government would probably hope for is that people will go for electric cars because, they've invested hundreds of millions of pounds in promoting these things. Even the ministerial cars are going to start being replaced by electric ones from later on this year. But you're absolutely right. I mean, it's going to encourage a lot of people, I think, to go back to petrol. And the question is which poison do you prefer, really?
Well, what about if you get a driverless car? Because they're supposed to be going to be available sometime in the next 12 months, aren't they?
Yeah, it's very exciting actually. I mean, from next year they're going to start trials in I think 3 cities. They haven't been announced which ones yet. Of driverless cars, just to see how they can work on the roads in practice. Really, I mean, obviously a lot of cars have plenty of technology in them. When you think of the sort of technology that's available for parking and so on, I mean, they can practically drive themselves already. But by law, you do have to have your hands on the wheel at all times.
When I saw you driving away the other day, Mike, I thought there was no driver in it because you were barely looking over the dashboard.
I'm not going to respond to that. Sorry, Nick, this man's an oaf, and don't take notice of him. Nick, what I was going to say is because, I can examine these issues seriously with an expert like you, quite apart from anything else, doesn't the boss of Mercedes, who must have invested literally billions of pounds in new plant to produce cars with mostly diesel engines, shouldn't he be knocking on Angela Merkel's door and say, have a word with the nutter in Brussels who says we've got to scrap diesel engines?
Well, I mean, what they'll be focusing on, I suppose, is there will soon be diesel engines produced to a standard that comply with these new rules. So, I suppose what they'll be doing is focusing on trying to make diesel engines which are as clean as possible, and which, by these rules are introduced, there will be some of the very most modern models that will meet the targets. But no, I can imagine there'll be a number of industrialists out there who will probably be furious about this.
Exactly.
And of course, the other people to think of are small business owners, because I mean, really, there aren't that many motorists, I don't think, out there who drive into London every day. As in you and me. But there's armies of taxi firms, small businesses who rely on vans driving in every single day, and they're all going to have to upgrade their fleet if they're on diesel, which many of them are.
And it's just going to make everything more expensive again, isn't it?
Of course it is. And just to move on from that, Nick, can you tell us as an expert, how much has the traffic in central London decreased since the introduction of the congestion charge? Because, of course, the congestion charge is going to double for these cars that don't have good diesel engines. What has been the effect of the congestion charge?
I'm afraid you've caught me off guard there.
Okay,
I haven't got my notebook handy. But
Yeah.
You said you were an expert and everything, Nick, for heaven's sake.
Don't take notice of him.
As a cyclist, I can tell you that the number of bikes is increasing massively. But But there we are.
Yeah, OK. Well, Nick, thanks very much indeed. That's very helpful of you. And it's a campaign we've got to start here at Talk Sport, because we can't have people going around, driving their cars off the edge of a cliff because they've got a diesel engine in it. Because it'd be cheaper to drive your car off the edge of a cliff than it would to take it away to be scrapped.
I feel as if I've been exploited, manipulated, used, and every sort of other word I can think of. Nick, thanks very much indeed. That was Nick Collins, there, transport correspondent of the Daily Telegraph.
Aren't you also irritated by the point I made to Nick about the noise a diesel engine makes?
Yeah.
It's a
well, actually, no, because
noise.
I love the noise my Land Rover makes. I love it.
Well,
it sits at traffic lights and people look at it and think, blimey,
for a
that
clumpy
thing's
old
got a massive engine.
For a clumpy old Land Rover, that's fine. But when you've got a limo...
clumpy old Land Rover.
When you've got a limo like mine, with well-defined lines...
It's a relatively small Mercedes.
Beautiful, well-defined lines. It should be purring along. You shouldn't be able to hear the engine inside your car. When you drive through urban areas, the people standing at bus stops who can't afford your sort
they're
of
all
car,
looking at it going, why is all that smoke coming out? Why is all that smoke coming out of the bonnet?
Pay 65p on their bus because they can't afford a 40 grand car or something like that. They're supposed to stand there in MB and look at this car purring past. It doesn't happen anymore. They're all gang, 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 gang. Sound like Spitfires coming down the road.
Well,
annoys me.
Maybe where you live.
And by the way, the only smoke that ever came out my engine, mate, was because it was brand new. And it still had grease on the engine block, apparently. Mm-hmm. And it was the time of those very heavy rains. And I was driving through, 4 or 5 inches of water on the country lanes in Stockbroker Belt, Surrey, to get here. And yes, you're absolutely right. A bit of the water stuck on the block of the new engine, and steam did start coming out from under the car. But there's nothing wrong with the car, of course.
No, of course there isn't. There's nothing wrong with you either. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes. Loads more coming up next.
The Two Mikes Summer Special.
Sport magazine is now available in iPad, Kindle Fire HD and Android editions. With exclusive additional picture and video content. Click talksport.co.uk/apps to find out more. Talk Sport. On air, online and on TV at Virgin Media Channel 927.
Let's go back to Sam Matterface and get an update on what's going on between Manchester United and Real Madrid. Sam.
And it's now Manchester United 3, Real Madrid 1. The goal coming just as you've come to me. Javier Hernandez with the goal, and he's missed 2 very good opportunities prior to that. Ball picked up by Darren Fletcher midway inside the Real Madrid half. He's popped it off to Shinji Kagawa, who's delivered a delightful ball towards the far post and coming in ahead of Iker Casillas, who probably should have done better and commanded his area with a little bit more gusto. He's nodded the ball past the Spanish number 1 and into the corner of the net. Carlo Ancelotti has brought on Cristiano Ronaldo in the last few moments as well. He says he wasn't ready. The player himself said he wanted to play, though, and he has got his way. He's got now 10 minutes to try and turn this around, but it's going to be a forlorn task, and it means that in all likelihood now Manchester United will go on to play Liverpool in the final of this competition in Miami on Monday night. Just a little bit of news from Minneapolis that is breaking in the last couple of moments. Manchester City were playing there against Olympiacos guys a little bit earlier on tonight. They lost on penalties to the Greek champions, but it has been confirmed in the last few moments that Frank Lampard will be joining Manchester City until the end of January. There is a caveat in there. Apparently, he has requested not to be selected against Chelsea. That's interesting news, breaking in the last few moments that Manchester City have signed Frank Lampard until the end of January. But we're concentrating on the game in Michigan, where it's Manchester United 3, Real Madrid 1.
This is the end.
You know this one?
Yeah, this is Skyfall, and this is Adele, right?
Yeah.
But I always thought this was a rip-off of Nobody Does It Better.
Why?
Well, listen to it.
It's got nothing like Nobody Does It Better.
Nobody does.
It's nothing like that.
It is. It is
absolutely ridiculous.
I think it's very similar.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to ask you a Beatles question coming up the next hour. You won't know what it is, and we'll test your Beatles knowledge on that as well.
Well, look, mate, there's nothing about the Beatles you can tell me.
Now, what about what Sam Matterface just said there? That's the first time, I believe, I think I'm correct in saying, that Manuel Pellegrini has actually admitted that Frank Lampard will indeed be joining Manchester City. A lot of Chelsea fans very, very bemused about this.
Is this defo?
Well, Pellegrini's just confirmed it live right here on Talk Sport.
Is that right?
You heard it here first.
Is that what Matt said?
That's what Matt said. Why are you calling him Matt?
Sorry, Sam. I'm so sorry, Sam.
Matt Sammerface. Sam Matterface, his name is.
Of course it is. Yeah,
he's
Sam,
watching the Man United game.
I'm very, very sorry about that.
No, because, I mean, in the past 2 days, right, what we know is that, that Frank Lampard was unveiled, was he not, last week as a new player for the New York City team, which is obviously...
Who don't play till March.
They don't play till March, and so, of course, they're owned by Manchester City. Now, the original story said that Frank was going to go down to Melbourne and play with their sister club down in Melbourne, which Manchester City just bought as well.
That's right,
Now, he's obviously decided decided, maybe it's Christine who's decided that she doesn't fancy, schlepping all the way down to the Southern Hemisphere for a few months.
Well, that's a bit unkind, isn't it, to say that, she's dictating what...
it may not be easy for him, let's say, because he's got young kids here as well, maybe he doesn't want to do that.
Yeah.
But the problem is that for Chelsea fans in particular, although Pellegrini said he has requested not to play against Chelsea, but imagine if Frank Lampard scores, I don't know, half a dozen great free kicks for Manchester City between now and Christmas.
Which gives them points in the Premier League.
Which gives them points in the Premier League against Chelsea. That's an astonishing thing for him to have done, isn't it?
Very odd one.
Do you think it's because he actually resents the fact that Chelsea didn't keep him on for another year?
Well, I don't think he does. I don't think that Frank Lampard's that sort of bloke. But what I can say is the only fault of anybody in this whole deal is that of Chelsea. I mean, they washed their hands of Frank Lampard, right? So after that, they have no control over Frank Lampard's future, neither do they deserve any control over it. And if they think that sentiment should have played a part, well, all I can say to that is that, you don't become one of the world's great billionaire industrialists through sentiment. And that's what Mr. Abramovich is, through his skills as a businessman. And you can't translate that into the emotions for one man. I don't blame Frank Lampard at all. Of course, he wants to play football. He can't play it in America because his team don't play till March. As you quite rightly say, the only alternative is to go to Australia.
And he's also still, presumably, wants to be considered for his England career because England have got this game against Switzerland coming up in September.
He's never retired from his England international career, has he?
So, I mean, that was always the thing. Is if he'd gone to Melbourne, that could be the other reason he's not going. Had he gone to Australia, that would probably have made him a sort of an Australian Jermaine Defoe.
Almost certainly.
And our man, Mr. Roy Hodgson, who, of course, we both support incredibly as England manager, would probably not have chosen him. Exactly.
No, absolutely. Well, it's a very interesting development. I'm sure that they'll be talking about it tomorrow on Tarek Sport. For my part, I just don't blame Frank Lampard has behaved impeccably throughout his life. There was the one aberration, obviously, on the Twin Towers Day, and that was
I wouldn't even worry mention about that.
I wouldn't even bother either.
A youthful mistake.
But even the only reason I mentioned it is because he did, and said he was apologised because he's gone to America and all that kind of stuff. That's fine. But all I'm saying is I think his behaviour throughout his career as a footballer and as an individual has been impeccable.
Yeah.
I saw him once I was down at the West Ham's ground.
West Ham's ground?
No, West Ham's training ground.
Oh, right.
What's it called? Well, it's down near... I drove there and it was a hell of a place to get to. It's down the end of a long sort of urban
what sort
street.
of area people want to know?
Well, it's in the East End. It's in the East End.
Right.
I'll tell you how you get there. If you go around the M25 and come off at the junction just before the QE2 bridge, and then turn left to go into London, and then turn right, it's sort of up there.
Do you mean the A2?
Yeah, the A2. It's just off the A2, that's right,
You come in sort of through Bexley Heath in that sort of way.
Well, Dartford? Coming through Dartford? Yeah, that's right, yeah. Anyway, so point of the story is, so I'm down there, I'm doing, whatever I'm doing, interviewing somebody.
It's a good story after all this.
It is a great story. And there were a group of competition winners. They'd won some competition at West Ham, a family of 4, and they'd come to be shown around the training complex and all this kind of stuff. And as I was standing there, all of a sudden, Frank Lampard sprinted past me, nearly knocked me over like that, jumped into
He was still playing for West Ham, I presume.
He was still playing for West Ham, of course, before he went to Chelsea. So he was a very young man, he was only about 21 or something like that. Jumped into a new blue Jaguar XK8 and roared off. But on his way, I noticed he was clutching a blue cardigan. And it turned out when he came back about 4 or 5 minutes later, and I said, "Oh, hello, Frank, what's all about?" He said, "Oh, the lady who was the mother of the family who won the competition, she left her cardigan here, and I didn't want to leave it behind, so I rode off down to the station and gave it back to her." And I thought, well, what a nice young man.
What a genuine thing to do.
What a nice young guy.
Very nice young guy. Yeah, well, I mean, you do wonder...
so you see, I tell you stories like that to enlighten your life and fill in the gaps in your...
That's very good.
In your rather raw knowledge.
But I fear that a lot of Chelsea fans have heard the news tonight live first on TalkSport. The news that they didn't want to hear. Well, they can object to the fact that Chelsea have let him go.
That's what I'm saying. That's all they can object to.
They can object to the fact that he has chosen to play for one of their
major
rivals.
What's he supposed to say? What's he supposed to say? Well, I tell you what, I'm a sentiment.
Why don't we ask them what they'd like to say about it?
No, please do.
If you're a Chelsea fan, now that you've heard the news on TalkSport that Frank Lampard is indeed going to play for Manchester City, is indeed going to be in the Premier League in the new season starting on August the 16th, and is indeed going to be making it difficult for Chelsea to actually win the league.
Do you honestly expect
3344.
Do you honestly expect Frank Lampard had a sentiment to say, well, I'm not going to play in the Premier League this year? He's only got a couple of years of football left in him at the
He didn't
brink,
have to go to Manchester
the brink
City.
of the highest level.
He didn't have to go there.
Chelsea didn't have to get rid of him.
That's true too.
Chelsea didn't have to get rid of him. It's Chelsea's fault.
All right,
It's
well,
nothing to do with
let's hear
Frank
from some Chelsea
Lampard.
fans.
Do you seriously expect a man to turn around and say, I'm going to end my career because my employers have decided I am bankrupt in terms of usefulness to them? No, I say. You've got to dictate your own life, not let people around you tell you how to do it.
OK, Mr Parry there has one view. I have another. This is Talk Sport. We'd like to hear from you.
The Two Mikes Summer Special.
Talk Sport. On air, online and on TV at Freeview Channel 723.
Coming up in the next hour of the Two Mikes show here on Talk Sport, we're going to be discovering a previously undiscovered tribe from the Amazon. We'll find out whether they'd ever heard of Mike Porky Parry. I suspect they hadn't. We'll also be giving him a quiz on James Bond, of course, because he is an expert in it after all. And also, there's lots more going on. We'll do some more on Frank Lampard going off finally to Manchester City. 08717 22 3344. Right now, though, it's 11 o'clock. Time for the news and sports headlines with Kate Partridge.
Thank you. Israel's Prime Minister says their ground offensive in Gaza will continue for as long as is necessary and will exert as much force as is needed. Benjamin Netanyahu's made a defiant speech saying his country won't take part in any ceasefire talks and promises Hamas militants will pay an insufferable price if they keep on firing rockets into Israel.
We have absolutely nothing against the civilians of Gaza, and we are sorry for every single casualty that there is. We ask the international community to defend and support the demilitarization of Gaza, especially in this operation.
Meanwhile, police are focusing their investigation in Swindon after identifying a man's remains found at a recycling plant. Body parts of 34-year-old Matthew Simons of no fixed address were discovered in Bristol. The death is being treated as unexplained. TV and radio presenter Mike Smith has died at the age of 59. The former Top of the Pops and Late Breakfast show star was married to TV personality Sarah Green and died in hospital on Friday after complications following major heart surgery. A Virgin train travelling from Glasgow to London was stranded north of Crewe for hours this afternoon because there was no power in the overhead lines. A diesel train sent to tow it back to Crewe failed in its task. Passengers were given food and water until supplies ran out and were finally transferred to another train. And in Glasgow, Botswana's former World and Commonwealth 400-metre champion at Mantley Montshow has been provisionally suspended after failing a dope test. A further test will now take place on Monday.
Talk Sport weather.
With ATS Euromaster. Be a cool customer with an aircon recharge for just $44.99.
Rain, sometimes heavy, continues to move towards the north, but it's increasingly dry and clear in the south.
Talk Sport Sports Update.
As we heard a little earlier from Sam Matterface, Manchester City manager Manuel Pellegrini has confirmed Frank Lampard will be joining the Premier League champions on loan, but has requested not to play against his former side. The 36-year-old former Chelsea midfielder has recently signed for City-owned Major League Soccer franchise New York City. Lampard is due to make the move on Wednesday and be at City until January, ahead of the start of the MLS season. Meanwhile, City are heading home after going out of the Champions Cup after losing 5-4 on penalties to Olympiacos in their Group B game after it finished 2-2 in Minneapolis. Manchester United are taking on Real Madrid in Michigan, having won all 3 of their matches on tour. Cristiano Ronaldo has been rested. The score coming into the final minutes is currently 3-1 to United. While earlier, striker Yaya Sanogo scored 4 as Arsenal swept aside Benfica 5-1 in the Emirates Cup. Newcastle, though, lost 3-1 to Malaga in Germany. And after a rain-delayed third round at the World Golf Championships in Ohio, Sergio Garcia still leads on 14 under par, but now by just 3 shots from Rory McIlroy. And Warwickshire are through to the finals of cricket's T20 Blast after a 19-run victory at Essex. Lancashire also qualified after winning by 1 run at home to Glamorgan. And Surrey went through earlier with a 3-wicket win over Worcestershire at the Oval. And all the latest transfer news is on our website, talksport.com.
The Two Mikes Summer Special.
This is the Two Mike Summer Special on Talk Sport. I'm Mike Graham and Mike Parry is here with me, of course. There will be a podcast available a little bit later on tomorrow, of course. It is the holiday season. I'm going to be away on holiday next week. I'm not going to go to Brazil. Lots of people did, of course, for the World Cup. It wasn't a particularly fascinating time if you were an England fan. Coming up later on in this hour, we will be giving Mr. Porky Parry his nightly quiz, and this time it's all about James Bond because he is, of course, a big expert in the James Bond movies. We want to hear from you as well on
James
the old
Bond culture, I think, is better.
Frank Lampard front as well. 08717 223344. Now, there was a fascinating story, Mike, I have to tell you. I know that you were glued to the World Cup while it was on. England had to go off and play in Manaus, which I think I'm right in saying is in the Amazon jungle. It's near the what you might call the sort of the northwest area of Brazil.
Indeed. Peru, I think, Peruvian border.
Near the Peruvian border. Now, just the other day in the papers, there was one of these amazing stories that we get from time to time, not always from the Amazon, but from some, far-flung part of the world.
Indonesia.
Where they discover a tribe of people who have previously known nothing about the outside world.
And these guys, what they do is they chuck their spears at helicopters and all this kind of stuff. And now it's true. I'm not taking the mickey or anything like that.
There was a great picture of these guys meeting somebody for the first time. And guess what? He was from a nearby Brazilian village, and he turned up wearing a pair of blue shorts, not dissimilar to the ones you wear.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't see the
and
front of
what
his
do you
face.
make of that, then?
Well, I just wonder whether he had any kind of other resemblance to you.
What's more factual about it, without you trying to turn it all into mockery, is that they gave the guys a bunch of bananas.
They did.
First time they'd ever had bananas.
But see, that surprises me. Why wouldn't they have bananas?
Well, because they don't grow bananas in Brazil, do they?
I suppose they don't.
No, they grow
you're
bananas.
the first bananas expert. They come mostly from the West Indies.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, the Fifey's banana boat comes through Portsmouth Harbour about once a week.
Yeah, I know that.
And
you were always telling us.
And it has all these containers full of bananas on it.
Apparently,
it's a banana boat.
Yeah, according to the piece that I read, these guys were found somewhere near the Envira River, near the state of Acre, northwest Brazil, near the Peruvian border.
Why were they forced out of their environment?
Well, we're going to find out now.
Exactly.
We're going to talk to an expert. Felipe Varney is joining us. He's actually in Rio, which is a good distance away from this part of the world. Felipe, very good evening to you.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me again.
Now, this is an amazing story. This isn't it? Is. Tell us about how it kind of came to be.
Well, I'm not that updated with the story, but as far as I know, what happened is that because of recent development in the state of Amazonas, there was a contact with a tribe that wasn't previously met by how can I put it? By civilized men, let's put
civilized
it this way.
men. So it's because of like industrialisation in the area or something. They
That's
got
right.
they got
deforestation.
Yeah.
Deforestation. It was deforestation, knocking down these trees. These guys fear for their future and for their environment. And what they do is they push out their parameters and their borders. And their lifestyle has to change enormously just moving 5 or 6 miles.
But it's amazing, isn't it, really, Felipe, where the world's kind of focus has been on Brazil during the World Cup for a month and maybe even for a month before that. Not so much now, but it's incredible in a way that there can still be these kinds of civilisations of people who have never really seen television, they've never really, they've never been in a car, they don't really wear clothes. I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, no, there was. In Brazil, we always hear the myths that there are tribes that have never made any contact. But to tell you the truth, personally, I was really shocked that in the 21st century we still have this sort of tribes. Because we have the known Indian tribes that they have their life sort of regulated by the government. They have their own lands. They're somehow protected, not as protected as they should be. But we haven't seen a case like this. I think the last one was in the early 70s.
Right.
So
what normally happens in a case like this? I mean, if they've been moved out of where they're supposed to live, like their normal habitat, do they get kind of found another area of the jungle to live in, or how does it work? Will somebody move in and try and kind of introduce them to the outside world?
Well, the current government has made an effort to first protect the Indian tribes that remain in the state of Amazonas and in the region, and not only protect them, but try to integrate them into the rest of the country. So I don't have any official information on that, but I do believe that they will go to some sort of reservation and progressively they will be integrated into the rest of the first of the Indian community and then into the rest of the country.
Indeed, you'd hope that would happen.
Fascinating story, Felipe. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Felipe. Now, of course, the biggest problem here, Mike, and I know about this because I've studied ancient civilizations.
Hello.
No, I have.
We should never sort of klaxon horn that goes off whenever you say you're an expert. We can please mark down the next quiz on Monday night for the two mics will be ancient civilizations.
Why can't you take anything I say at face value? Why do you have to turn everything into a challenge against my intelligence?
Well, because I think ancient civilizations would be a great one. I'm going to write it down now.
You
do not.
Yeah, you think you're brighter than me? When do you
not.
ever come up with any information for our listeners that they don't already know? You state the obvious time after time, day after day, and I'm enlightening people in a way that you can't.
Worked up?
Well, I'm telling you I'm getting worked up because I'm just about to tell you the most salient point about this whole story.
Oh, go on then.
All you're doing is sniggering and laughing
Not at all.
at
I'm just making a note for
load
myself.
of tribesmen in the Amazon who wear nothing but a loincloth and you're taking the mickey out of ancient civilizations.
These guys aren't even wearing a loincloth.
You're taking the mickey out of ancient civilizations. I appreciate from an anthropological point of view.
Anthropological.
Anthropological. You know exactly what I'm saying.
Anthropological.
The anthropological perspective of this is that the most dangerous thing that can happen is the tribe could be wiped out because they'll catch a disease.
That's right.
From the people who are already in the civilised world.
With whom they haven't been mixing.
Maybe
the guy in the blue shorts will give them something.
You see, honestly, I despair for you sometimes.
Why?
I despair for you. Do you know that half of the Native Americans were not even killed by the bullet from the gun of the striped legs, i.e., the American cavalry?
Yeah.
They died from disease.
Yeah, I know.
When the guys who were taking and stealing their lands arrived with things like flu, and even chicken pox and all that kind of stuff.
Just a common cold.
That's right, and these poor guys now come out of the jungle.
So
and
on
now
the basis that you think that that's somehow information that nobody knew,
is this information nobody knew?
Is that the best you can come up with?
You didn't know. What have you told us about this situation then?
I was the one that told you where it happened. I was the one that told you where it happened. I told you they were discovered by a guy wearing blue shorts. I told you gave him bananas.
But that's all documented in a factual account that we first saw 2 days ago.
Well, I deal in facts.
What have you contributed to the development of this story?
Well, Felipe was able to tell us that they're protected by the government and that more than likely they'll be moved into a new area so that they can continue to be locked away from the rest of the world.
Yes, but we all knew that.
Well, you say that, but
yeah,
nobody
I'm
did.
telling you, we all knew that. What do you think? What do you think the Brazilian government are
I'm
going to say?
a mirror.
Oh, we've got up there with a couple of machine guns, wiped
All I
them
am,
out,
right?
and that's got rid
Listen,
of the problem.
all I am is a mirror, okay? What I do is I pick up
A
information.
mirror?
A mirror.
Yeah, I've
what I
looked in
do,
a mirror for years.
I
You're
have.
frightened to.
Yeah, the house is full of them.
I don't believe it. Don't for a minute.
I pick up information.
You should get one of those bendy mirrors. It's the only way you look slim.
A bendy mirror?
Yeah.
Is that what you've got?
No,
at
I'm
home?
no. I'm talking about these fairground
Yeah,
mirrors.
the ones
you know,
that make you look taller than you really are and thinner.
well,
that's why I think you've
I'll
got
tell
one.
you what, mate, you need a magic mirror to make you look thinner, I'm telling you that.
You see, whenever I just ask a question about the wherewithal of where you get your information from, you just turn nasty.
No,
on
I
me.
don't. I just get irritated sometimes about your dilettante view of the factuality of life and how you sometimes just traduce, some of the great things about the world, which is the mystery of the world and living and everything else.
I think you're from a lost tribe. Let's go across to Sam Matterface, or Matt Samberface, as you called him earlier.
I did not.
To find out what the final full-time news is from Manchester United, Real Madrid. Sam.
Real Madrid 1, Manchester United 3. Manchester United well drilled and flowing with confidence and looking every bit the 2 weeks ahead of Real Madrid in terms of preparation that they are. Swept aside the European champions with 2 first-half strikes from Ashley Young and a second-half clincher from Javier Hernandez. Gareth Bale scored Real's goal from the penalty spot after being hauled down by young Michael Keane. But United deserved their victory. Cristiano Ronaldo made his first appearance since the World Cup, but could do nothing to stop Louis van Gaal's side from marching to the final against Liverpool in Miami on Monday. 109,318 saw it in Michigan, smashing the record set for an attendance for a soccer match in the US, set in 1984 at the Olympic final in Pasadena. It finished Real Madrid 1, Manchester United 3.
Thanks very much indeed, Sam. There's a lot of West Ham fans who've been on.
That's not a bad result for Manchester United.
It's a great
is
result. Oh, well,
Fantastic.
Manchester United-Liverpool. I mean, this little strange little competition, which everybody says, oh, well, it's a pre-season friendly.
Sure.
It's going to be a great game, Man
Certainly
United,
is.
Liverpool. But the question is, will it be a game too far for Louis van Gaal and for Brendan Rodgers? Because, they want to get back here to prepare for the real season, don't they?
Could be. What do the West Ham fans saying?
Well, the West Ham fans are saying, amongst other things, sort Porky out. West Ham train at Chadwell Heath, not Bexley Heath. Millwall are South London. That's from George.
I knew that. I didn't say Bexley Heath. You said Bexley Heath.
Well, you said that.
I said on the road in from Dartford.
Yeah, but that's Kent, though. Well, I'm being told that they play.
No,
Chadwell
I
Heath is
didn't.
in Essex.
I didn't. I said the road in from Dagenham.
You said Dartford.
I didn't. I said Dagenham.
All right, we'll play it
Dagenham,
back to
Essex.
you. You did. Ross says this. Listen to that fool, Porky. It's in Chadwell Heath, Essex.
Yeah, I know that. I've been there.
Unbelievable.
How do you think I got there?
Well, you didn't go on the A2, did you?
On the A2?
You said you took the exit.
You said the A2.
You said you took the exit before the crossing.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, which way were you going? Clockwise or anti-clockwise?
I was going
You can't answer that,
anti-clockwise.
Anti-clockwise?
Yes.
Well, then the exit before the crossing,
Yes.
the Dartford crossing, is Kent, not Essex.
No, it's not. If you turn left and go into London, it's not, you fool. That's Essex.
Is it?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm certain.
All right.
I know these things.
This is TalkSport. We are the Two Mics. Coming up, another opportunity for you to prove your expertise in another field. This will, of course, be quiz time on the Two Mics, and this time the quiz is all about James Bond.
The Two Mics Summer Special.
The suspense, the anticipation, the excitement.
The world's biggest football league returns on Saturday the 16th of August.
The first wow of the season. The Barclays Premier League on Talk Sport. Talk Sport. On air, online and on TV at Virgin Media Channel 927.
Great, I have to say, when you hear any James Bond music, it really does take you somewhere, doesn't it? It's fantastic,
very inspiring.
It's
I mean, when you were a kid, I was a member of the James Bond Club when I was 8.
Were you?
Yeah, and at school you used to.
What did you get for that?
Well, you get a little card. You know, your parents write off. It's on the back of a bubblegum packet. You know, do you want to join the James Bond Club?
Yeah.
So you write that off, you send it off and all that, and then you get a little card back saying you're a secret agent, you know, and all this kind of stuff, and then you can buy a special gun and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
When they had the first James Bond car that had the ejector seat and the
I had
machine
one of
guns.
those.
I had one of those. It was a dinky toy,
I
think,
did.
or a corgi or something.
I did.
And a terrible thing happened to me, though, because I just bought it, right?
Right.
And I was with my parents and my mother, actually, and we went shopping in a part of London where we lived, years before they had the sort of supermarket superstores.
Yeah,
so we were in a hardware store or something like that.
Right.
And I remember standing in this hardware store, and what I didn't know was they had this completely exposed set of stairs which were led down to the workshop.
Yeah.
And I was looking at something or other with my sister, and I took a step back and I fell down the stairs.
Really?
Only marginally missed a circular saw, which was being used to cut something.
How old were you at the time?
I was about 6 or 7.
Oh, well, that explains a lot for the rest of your life, definitely.
What?
If you fell backwards down the stairs and
bashed
your head.
The worst thing that happened was that I dropped my toy James Bond car, and the man who was in the ejector seat came out, and I never found him.
Never found him.
I couldn't care about the gash on my head. I was disturbed by that.
Well, had you already bought the car in the same shop?
No, it was a hardware shop.
Well, what are you doing carrying your car around?
Because when you're a kid, you get a new toy, you carry it in your hand.
No, you don't. No, you must be a very odd child.
Why? What do you do?
Well, I don't carry it around. I keep it at home in the special James Bond garage that I had.
We just bought it in the shop, though, so I had it in my hand.
I just said that to you. You bought
it in that shop? Home. No, in a different shop.
Oh, a different shop. I see. Right. Okay.
Oh, God, try and keep up. Anyway, listen, we've got a quiz about James Bond. Your normal average correct score is around about 3 to 4 out of 10.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
I can test that.
Now, what we have for you are 2 special sound effects. I want you to listen out for these, because when you get a question correct, which won't happen very often, this is the sound you'll hear.
Bond.
Okay, that's excellent.
If you get one wrong, which is the one you'll hear most of the time, it'll be this.
Positively shocking.
Positively shocking. My name is Bond.
Okay.
James Bond.
10 questions. They will not be multiple choice, okay? Because you always ask about that.
No, I don't.
This will be a simple answer, okay?
Okay.
Question number 1.
Let's go.
What is the name of the man with 3 nipples in The Man with the Golden Gun?
Scaramanga.
That's very good.
Thank you.
Bond. James Bond.
For a bonus point, can you give me his first name?
I think it's Nicholas. I don't know
Francesca,
why.
but that's all right.
Positively shocking.
Okay.
All right, question 2.
Yeah.
Who emerges from the sea in an orange bikini in Cuba in Die Another Day? I can't believe you won't know this one.
Hang on, I was going to say...
Every man listening to this show knows exactly what that scene is.
Hang on, I was going to say Ursula Andress, but that's Dr. No. But you're talking about the one with
Dr.
Daniel...
Know Nothing.
Just hang on. With Daniel Craig and...
No, it isn't.
Hang on, what's the question again?
Who emerges from the sea in an orange bikini in Cuba in Die Another Day?
It's Piers Brosnan then, in that case, isn't it?
He's not in the orange bikini, though.
No, I know who that is. She's got very short hair, short black hair, orange bikini, and she's one of the world's best-looking women. And
her name is?
Her name is something like... Oh, I can see her face now. Look...
Really? Most people aren't thinking about that.
I want to come back to that one.
You can't come back.
Yes, I can, because I know she is, but I can't remember her name.
No, I'm sorry.
Positively shocking.
Oh, no,
that's the wrong
not
answer.
Fair.
Wrong answer.
Oh.
All right, this one's easy for you if you're a student.
Siley Myrus or Miley Cyrus or something?
Siley Myrus.
Was it? Who was it?
No.
Well, you
it's
tell
Halle
me now.
Berry.
Who?
Halle Berry.
Halle Berry. I knew it was that. Yeah.
And her name in the movie was Jinx Johnson.
Jinx Johnson.
She worked for the Americans.
Right.
Question 3. How many James Bond films have actually been made? Now, knowing that you were having a James Bond quiz, I can't believe you didn't look this up.
Well, hang on a sec, because there are disputed James Bond films. Sean Connery...
Well, I'm talking about the official ones.
Right. Well, I'll listen to you, okay? So there's Dr. No, and then there was Goldfinger, and then Thunderball, and then From Russia with Love, And then, I can't go through here. And then...
We haven't got time for you
hang
to go through
on,
them
5,
one by
4's 9, 4's 13, 17.
Wrong.
Positively shocking.
23.
Yeah, but you see, there were some that were disputed.
No, they weren't.
Casino
These are all-
Royale
no, these
was
are
made
all
with
official.
David Niven. No,
These are
go
all
on.
official.
Positively shocking.
I'm not including Casino
There are not
Royale.
20. There are not 23
Yes, there are.
James Bond films. I don't believe there are.
Question 3 is a musical round.
This isn't question 3.
Sorry, you're right. It's question 4.
Ah, see, trying to fool me.
That's the first thing you got right.
Trying to fool me. Yeah, go on. Yes.
Just listen to it.
I'm listening. Right.
They can stimulate to tease me.
Yes.
Just listen to it.
What's the question?
I've no fear that they might
Who wrote it?
hurt me.
Diamonds are forever. Well, Shirley Bassey sang it.
Correct.
Diamonds are forever and ever. I love the way she rolls her tongue around. Diamonds are forever. Right. Diamonds are forever. This would be written by that bloke who's really good on the guitar. What's his name?
Hank Marvin.
No, you fool. By the way, the Shadows.
Jimmy
what sort of
Page.
group were they? No. They
Eric
never
Clapton.
Never wrote the words. No.
Pete Townsend.
No, don't be silly. You know the guy I'm talking about, acoustic guitar. Right, well, it wasn't John Barry, because he wrote the score for James Bond, you know. So this would be Diamonds Are Forever. You told me your 9-year-old son set some of these questions.
He did.
Well, he couldn't possibly have done that.
Why not?
Well, how could a 9-year-old kid work out who wrote a song that was a film score 50 years
He
ago?
Googled it like every other 9-year-old.
Diamonds Are Forever. I reckon... Oh, I know it was. It was Tony Hatch.
It was John Barry.
Positively shocking.
Oh, well, I've got that right.
No, you haven't. You
I
said
did,
it wasn't
because
John
I said
Barry.
it wasn't John
You said
Barry.
it wasn't
Well, you were
John Barry.
supposed to, at that stage, say, think again.
No, I don't think so. I don't say think again.
That's outrageous.
Question 5.
I'm claiming that one, I'm sorry.
Question 5. You've got 1 out of 4.
I didn't even answer the question. I was musing and thinking aloud, and
Okay.
I said, John Barry, and you didn't give me any encouragement at all.
Question 5. Who played James Bond in You Only Live Twice?
You only live twice. Sean Connery.
Correct.
Bond.
Thank you.
James Bond.
That's 2 out of 5.
No, it's
Going
not.
well.
3.
Number
I'm
6.
having the John Barry one.
Listen, the guys behind
3
the...
out of 5,
the-
that's 60%. That would be a first-class honours degree pass at a university.
No, it wouldn't.
Yes, it would.
You'd have to get 75 for that. Number 6. Which Bond film has the villain as a Rupert Murdoch-styled media mogul?
Now then, I can see him in a lorry going through a town. He's in the lorry, isn't he?
Who?
The mogul.
Is
the
he?
mogul,
What's
yeah.
he doing? Not much of a media mogul. He's in a lorry.
I don't know. There's a load of lorries going through a town, and he's in one of them. And they must have knocked the town out with
That's
gas
just
or
one of
something.
your weird dreams.
No. Now, I know who the name of the actor is.
Go on then. I'll give you a point for the name of the actor.
I
You don't, do you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Now, what's the question? Is it the name of the mogul?
I want the name of the film.
Oh, the name of the film. Oh, right.
But
okay.
if you've got the name of the actor...
The World Is Not Enough.
Positively shocking.
I'm afraid not. It's Tomorrow Never Dies.
Well, that was,
that was
close.
And the name of the actor... It wasn't close. It was a wrong film.
No, it wasn't. It was only the one before or the one after. Well, it was.
Jonathan Pryce.
Jonathan
was the guy who
Pryce. I knew
played
it was Jonathan Pryce.
Did you? Why did you say so?
The World Is Not Enough. That's... Oh, no, that's the airship, isn't it, that bashes into the Golden Gate Bridge?
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
It isn't.
It is.
Don't worry, there's another question about that one coming up. Number
Right.
7.
Yeah.
When was Live and Let Die released?
So live and let die.
You heard the song earlier.
Ooh. Right. Well, because I...
I'll have to hurry you here.
Well, hang on. I'm a student of Beatles music. Paul McCartney, Live and Let Die. So live and let die. Beatles broke up in 1975.
Positively
But when
shocking.
was it then?
1973.
Well, that was so close.
You don't get it for close.
Well, I should get it for close.
I know you should. If you
How
want
do you
us
expect
to
me
do
to
your
remember
test,
back 30
if you
years?
want us to give you a test on any subject in which, if you get it near or thereabouts, we'll give you it right.
Yeah, well, you should have said I'll give you within 2 years.
No, I won't.
Yes, you should.
Here's one. For,
It's impossible to get that right to the year.
Here's an easy one.
Impossible.
For you. Number 8. What does Madonna give James Bond a lesson in Die Another Day?
What?
What does Madonna give James Bond a lesson in Die Another Day?
Madonna's not in Die Another Day.
Yes, she is.
No, she's not.
Yes, she is.
Die Another Day?
Yes.
Is that the one in North Korea?
No.
Where he's a prisoner?
No. It's the wrong Bond for a start. That was Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Die Another Day is Daniel Craig. I'm giving you more help than you should get.
Now, hang on. Die Another Day.
You haven't seen it, have you?
Hang on. Of course I have. Hang on, he's only made 3. Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace.
Actually, you're right. Yeah, it's Pierce Brosnan.
Thank you. See, misleading information. Null and void question.
No, it's not.
Null and void question.
What does she give him a lesson in? You don't know, do you?
Yeah, karate.
Positively shocking.
Fencing.
Well, that's close.
Fencing is nothing like karate.
It is. Fencing is...
Well, that's news to the Olympic Committee.
No, fencing is karate with an epee in your hand.
Really?
Isn't it? Is it called an epee?
No, it's not.
I think it's a sword, then.
Number 9.
Yeah.
Who played Max Zorin in A View to a Kill?
Seeing you with a view to a kill. Max Zorin, that was the nutty guy, Christopher Walkenden.
Bond.
That's not technically correct.
See, it's right, it's right.
What did you say his name was?
It's right. Christopher Walken.
Bond.
That's right. You said Christopher Walken
No,
the
I
first time.
did not. No, I didn't. See,
Right, I think
that was the one. That was the one where they galloped round on the horses.
That's right.
And when Christopher Walken jumped
They made
over,
the
they were
hedge go
one
up.
height. Yeah, and then when old Roger Moore, James Bond, they put him up 2 feet. Yeah.
Right, so far, I think I've given you 4 so far out of 9. So to get 50%, which would be a massive record for you.
I'm already on 50%
Number 10,
on my marking card.
Can you name 3 Aston Martins driven by James Bond? I want the models.
The first one was a DB5.
Correct.
DB5.
That's still
one that begins with V.
Uh-huh.
Okay, is that right?
Yeah, it begins with V,
Right.
but you don't get a point for that.
Well, it's an Aston Martin.
Very expensive.
No, Aston Martin. What is it? Aston Martin.
Aston Martin Volavant?
No, Aston Martin Volavant. Aston Martin.
No. You're not going to get this, are you?
Yeah, I am.
You're not going to get it.
The Aston Martin.
Vantage?
Vantage. That's Vantage.
You don't get that one. Can you name another one?
DB6.
No.
DB5, DB6,
Bond.
Vantage, and...
James Bond.
Well, there weren't any Aston Martins after that. Then he had
There
gone
was
on
an
to...
Aston Martin DBS. You could have had that. There was a Vanquish. You could have had that. Or you could have had the DB Mark III, which is in the first.
That's all too technical.
So you got 4 out of 10.
An Aston Martin's Aston Martin. I got 5 on my.
You got 4.
No,
Another
on my scoring
huge
card.
failure.
My scoring card, I got 5. 5 out of 10, 50%. And
You're proud of that, aren't you?
In the university, I am very proud
proud
of
if you had
it.
half of
Well,
it right.
considering the questions were so obtuse as to make me
Set-
try and look
set
like
by
a
my 9-year-old son.
like a orangutan rather than
Look at the time.
the force of nature that
Look
I
at
am.
the time. Look into the light again. Another failure by Porky. We're going to have Ancient Civilizations coming up as a test on Monday. This is TalkSport.
Oh, yeah.
You're one of the most beautiful girls I've ever seen.
Thank you. But I think my mouth is too big.
No, it's the right size. For me, that is.
The Two Mikes Summer Special.
Coming up here on TalkSport with the two mics, we're going to find out why Mr. Porky Parry is so obsessed with spiders' webs that he doesn't let his cleaner get rid of them at his luxury penthouse. Plus, of course, extra time coming up at midnight with Russell Hargreaves. Loads more to come here as well. Right now, let's have some sports headlines with Kate Partridge.
Thank you, good evening. Manchester City have confirmed Frank Lampard will join the Premier League champions on a 6-month loan deal. The former Chelsea midfielder has recently signed for City-owned Major League Soccer franchise New York City. Lampard will be at Manchester City until January, ahead of the start of the MLS season, but might be allowed to sit out the home clash with Chelsea on September the 21st. Meanwhile, City are heading home after going out of the Champions Cup, losing 5-4 on penalties to Olympiacos in their Group B game after it finished 2-2 in Minneapolis. But new manager Louis van Gaal made it 4 wins from 4 after Manchester United beat Real Madrid 3-1 in their Group A match in Michigan. Ashley Young scored twice and Javier Hernandez added a late third. Gareth Bale netted a first-half penalty. Cristiano Ronaldo came on late on. But United will face Liverpool in the final. Earlier, Yaya Sanogo scored 4 as Arsenal beat Benfica 5-1 in the Emirates Cup, though in Germany, Newcastle United lost 3-1 to Malaga. In cricket's T20 Blast, Warwickshire through to the finals after a 19-run victory over Essex. Lancashire also qualified after beating Glamorgan by 1 run. And Surrey went through earlier with a 3-wicket win over Worcestershire. And England are guaranteed to finish top of the medal table at the Commonwealth Games for the first time in 28 years. All the latest transfer news is on our website, talksport.com.
Colin Murray, weekdays from 10 on TalkSport, the place to hear passionate comment.
You've never seen Cool Ronnie, man? Oh my goodness.
For like Godfather 2 of Walt Disney. Let me just give you one of the quotes.
Okay, I like that. The hottest debate and the biggest names in the sporting universe.
Did you know when you put your hand in that water with all your experience that you were more than likely going to lose those fingers?
I did, but that was better than losing my whole life.
Colin Murray, weekday mornings from 10 on TalkSport.
Sitting on a cornflake, waiting for the van to come. Combination t-shirts, stupid bloody Tuesday, man. You've been a naughty boy, you let your face grow long. I am the Eggman, they are the Eggmen. I am the walrus, Mr. City.
I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. This apparently is the most baffling song ever written. I'm the Walrus by the Beatles. Apparently, according to pop professor Martin Clunan of Glasgow University, this is the one song that nobody can actually work out what the lyrics are about. He thinks they're about something to do with the Lewis Carroll poem, The Walrus and the Carpenter. But, I mean, honestly, when you hear this, I'm the Eggman, they are the Eggmen, I am the Walrus, goo goo gajoo.
Yeah.
What's it about?
Well,
you're the Beatles expert.
You're right, I am. I mean, that's not just another teaser.
Yeah.
I am. And all you can say is that if you appreciate the situation in the 60s when all this music was being written, people were ingesting themselves with some very strange substances. And there's no
and
debate
even injecting
about that.
themselves as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it was more LSD. They were all on LSD. Now, and by the way, that's not an allegation or an accusation. It's
they've all admitted it.
self-confessed.
Well, the
All
Beatles
admitted
themselves
it.
have admitted it.
Well, I mean...
Magic mushrooms, the whole thing.
Absolutely. And for instance, what did Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds mean? Now, that got banned because, obviously, it spelt LSD, and they thought, so... In fact, nothing to do with it. The actual girl who was Lucy, who was a friend of Julian Lennon, who was Lennon's son by his first marriage to Cynthia, has since died in the last couple of years. She was a real person, and that was an absolutely true story, that Julian brought home a drawing from school, and when John said, who's that person on there? He said, oh, that's Lucy, and she's in the sky with all these diamonds. That's how he wrote it. But the rest of the lyrics to Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, about, tangerine trees, newspaper taxis appear on the shore, kaleidoscope eyes, and all that kind of stuff, it was all from that era.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why anybody's even questioning what does it all mean. It doesn't mean anything.
But, I mean, there's been many ridiculously stupid songs written. I mean, it's not a stupid song, is it? I mean,
I don't think it's a stupid song.
I don't think that anything the Beatles wrote was ever not meaning something. I mean, I don't think it had anything to do with the Walrus and the Carpenter, do you?
No, I don't think it did. And do you remember, like a couple of years after this, they did the Magical Mystery Tour, which was obviously very visual, rather than just like a record. And they all dressed up, didn't they, as characters? And one of them was a walrus. And also... John said in a later record on the White Album, I've told you about Strawberry Fields, I'll tell you now nothing is real. Now here's another hint for you all.
Yeah.
The walrus was Paul.
Right.
So clearly, if
So I Am the Walrus was about Paul McCartney.
that's what I'm saying. Clearly, if the lyrics to the second song,
Well, who are the Eggmen then?
well, I don't know, but I mean, when you have groups like that. And that famous and all that kind of stuff, you have all the hangers-on.
Yeah.
And all these hangers-on were called, like, for instance, George Harrison used to call them apple scruffs. You know, these were people who'd hang around the Beatle Emporium when they started Apple and all that kind of stuff, you know. And for all I know, the Eggmen could have been the people who brought Johnny's Strange Substances or something like that. You know what I mean? I mean, who really knows? What I just don't understand is why anybody even gets into discussing what it's all about. I mean, for instance, Mike, for years, people have been trying to find out where is the Hotel California.
Yeah.
Well, it's blinking obvious to me, and has been for years, that Hotel California was a song about people in California, and they just called it Hotel California. But all these nutters...
Wasn't it about a fictitious place that was just in the minds of the also sort of slightly drug-induced eagles?
Yes, it was, but it was life in California in those days, being described as being, you know, enclosed in a hotel. But
so
all
you
these...
can check out any time, but you can never leave.
Exactly.
It's about California.
Exactly. And so...
Well, why can you never leave?
Well, because you can't get out of that lifestyle.
I see.
It was about drug addiction.
You are quite a deep thinker, actually.
Yeah.
It's never occurred to me before.
It was about drug addiction and all that. Now, all these nutters, right, come from places like Japan and all that, and and they turn up in...
Don't pick up the Japanese.
No, I'm saying that, you know, they come in party and they turn up in California, and then they go off on these searches through Death Valley and all that, and some of them actually perish because Death Valley is a very dangerous place to go, because it gets to like 130 degrees.
Death Valley's not in California, is it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. And it was like the home of the Manson tribe and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
You sure?
Yeah, certain, absolutely certain. And they go off and they go to try and find the Hotel California because they are convinced. There are a group of people around the world who are great Eagles fans who are convinced that this hotel was somewhere where they all stopped one weekend, you know what I mean? You know, a bit like, remember the Stones wrote Exile on Main Street in a chateau in France.
In France, yeah.
In the south of France.
They want to pay 85% tax.
They were in tax exile, and to this day it's become like a mausoleum of the Stones and all that kind of stuff. Well, all these Japs and people like that all go searching for this fictitious, but it's not. Hotel California was being a person out of his mind on drugs in California in those days. That's what it was about.
Well, one of the other ones that came up in this survey that was done was one of Michael Jackson's Earth song. I don't know if you remember that, which was one of the ones that he did very latterly in his career.
And wasn't he pictured in a wind with a load of children pulling at his robes like he was Jesus Christ or something?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And one of the line... That's right, and the line that people find the most baffling is how about this, right? What about, I'm not even sure if this was as a result of the anaesthetic that he was taking every night.
Milk.
What about the elephants? Have we lost their trust?
Well, that's not a bad question, that, because we're supposed to protect elephants from being slaughtered by poachers. So have the elephants, who are very intelligent animals, very, very intelligent animals, have they suddenly decided man is no longer their protector?
How do you know they're intelligent?
Well, we know they're massively intelligent.
How?
People who've researched elephants say that of all the animals in the world, they have instincts closer to the way a human being thinks than any other animal in this world.
Really?
By studying the familial patterns of the way elephants live.
Yeah.
Okay?
They do look after their young very well.
Of course they do. Look after the young and they provide for them, all that kind of stuff, protect them and all that sort of thing. On that Michael Jackson one, isn't that the one where Jarvis Cocker jumped up on the stage at an awards and started mocking Michael Jackson?
Yeah.
And,
well, he more or less attacked him, I think.
Did he attack him? Did he?
He kind of bumped into
something
him
like that. Yeah,
or roughing him up.
A load of weirdos. These rock stars. You see, that's why I've never allowed myself to sink towards that point where you're over the edge. You know what I mean?
Really?
You know, yeah, I've always managed to retain my sanity.
Is that right?
And sensibility and awareness of life because. Being that out of control, anything could happen. I mean, and lots of things did happen, didn't it?
Yeah, but they sit around doing all that stuff because they've got so much time on their hands.
No, they don't. No, they don't. No, they don't have time on their hands. Quite often, they're doing that stuff because they're under so much work pressure to produce new material. When you're creative, Mike, and let's face it, you know, without blowing my own trumpet, I am the creative half of this partnership.
Is that right?
Would you agree with that?
No, I wouldn't say that, no.
Well, would you say I'm the more creative half?
No, I wouldn't.
Well, what would you say then?
I'd say it's about half and half.
Well, half and half, is it?
Yeah.
So you think you're as creative as me?
It's not a question of that.
If I put that out to the audience, they would laugh you out of town.
Would they?
They'd laugh you out of court,
They're still laughing at how useless you were at the James Bond quiz, to be honest.
No, they're not. What they're saying is they're trying to work out why you're winding me up all the time, trying to belittle me to make yourself look bigger.
This is what you keep saying.
No.
This is what you keep saying.
What I'm saying is, if you are a highly creative person, the stress and strain of just existence, is so enormous that you do seek solace elsewhere. Some people turn to drink. Some people turn to nefarious substances. Some people can't face it all, sadly, and these things
Some
happen.
people turn to the pleasures of the flesh, like Tiger Woods.
I mean,
there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, but I excuse everybody for those excesses because they're genius. And when you've got the genius factor, and I think with this conversation with Adrian, didn't you, in the World Cup about who were we talking about to him about some genius?
Vincent van Gogh.
Yeah, Van Gogh, that's right. It was Van Gogh who cut his ear off, wasn't it? You've got to make allowances for these people,
right, let me just
and I
read
make
this to you.
allowances.
Unfortunately, it doesn't come in with a name on it, but it's a text to 81089.
Oh, yes.
Porky thinks they don't grow bananas in Brazil, so that's why they gave a tribe a bunch of bananas and said these are called bananas. It's a good job you don't have dope tests at Talk Sport.
That's a bit harsh.
We've got more to come with the two Mikes next.
They don't grow bananas.
The Two Mikes Summer Special.
Seismic speculation from the biggest names in the business. TalkSport's team of astute experts bring you updates every 15 minutes. And online, anytime at TalkSport.com. Talk Sport. On air, online and on TV at Freeview Channel 723.
The Selco Predictor is back as we prepare for the start of the season. TalkSport have once again teamed up with Selco for your chance to win £1 million with the Selco Predictor. If you correctly predict the results of 10 or more Premier League games in any game week, the prize is yours.
Fantastic prize. Now then, make sure you get involved and sign up at talksport.com/predictor and see how you fare against me, the Porkmeister, and some of the other TalkSport presenters. Or set up a mini-league and play against your mates and colleagues in your own workplace, your own community, or whatever. So go to talksport.com/predictor and play all season before 5 p.m. on a Friday, OK? So remember, that's the deadline, 5 p.m. Friday. And that's for a chance to win £1 million, thanks to Selco Builders Warehouse. Now, one thing you can always predict is that Selco has over 15,000, I'll repeat that, 15,000 quality trade products in stock to take away at any one time. Players must be 18 or over to win the cash prize. See the website, please, for full terms and conditions. And from both MG and myself, the best of luck.
Now, just harking back to some of the stories we were talking about a little bit earlier. Just
Oh,
catching
listen,
up
mate,
with-
listen,
there's so many
listen,
tweets
listen.
that have come up. Hang on.
Yeah.
There's so many tweets that have come up.
Okay.
Graham says this. What has Parry been smoking, or does he get his info from the Beano?
Well,
Driving on the left came about because Napoleon was left-handed. That's one thing. And then going back onto some of the stuff you were talking about, your solo holiday. Here's a text from someone who doesn't give a name to 81089. Mike's, the best part of my holiday in Villamora was when me and the missus had a Barney and I stormed off, spent the rest of the day and evening on my own and had a great time. And then here's one from Derek in Pencoed.
Sounds rather selfish.
Well, after what your story was,
Yeah.
listen to what he says.
Pencoed.
Pencoed, he says, Mike, after all the time Porky has had a go at you because of the amount of times you've been married, I say he is a massive hypocrite after hearing of the way he treated the young lady he went on holiday with.
Well, I didn't treat her badly. I mean, I hardly knew her. But the point is, it didn't work, and it would have been more miserable for us to have enjoyed each other's company for the rest of that holiday.
Really?
Didn't abandon her, didn't come home. Normal, daytime relationship. I just chose that, for the sake of harmony, we just had separate rooms. That was all. Really? And by the way, I thought we'd already established from a number of other listeners that my version of why we drive on the left and the Continental drive on the right is because of jousting.
Well, some people seem to think that.
And that was confirmed by listeners.
people seem to think it's something to do with
So the
Napoleon
guy
as
who's
well.
going on about Napoleon being left-handed, I haven't really got a clue what he's talking about. Listen, mate, there's something I need to tell you about because amongst my research studies are human relationships, as you know.
Of course.
Now, listen to this. I do study, people's problems. My husband.
You create a lot of people's problems.
No, I don't. No. Right now, this is an agony aunt type column thing, in a publication.
Okay.
And it says my husband's put on so much weight that I find his body repulsive. I don't know what you're
I can
laughing
imagine.
at. Has that happened to you?
I know how. No, it's
that happened
never
to you?
happened. Actually, never happened to me. No.
Listen to this.
It's happened to me in reverse, though.
Well, actually, funny enough, it has to me. I'm going to tell you that in a minute. I'm 30 and my husband's 32. We've been married for 8 years. He hasn't always been overweight, and I'm really worried about his health problem has taken its toll on our relationship too. I snap at him and say nasty things.
Yeah, well.
Do you get ladies saying nasty things to you?
No, I don't think I've ever had. I mean, they say nasty things to me, but not because of my weight.
Yeah.
Just because of generally the way I behave.
What about this one here? You won't believe this, because I do look at these things because I study, people's lifestyles.
You've said that.
Listen to this. This is from a woman. This is a woman. She says, I've got a cardboard cutout of Declan Donnelly, that's Dec from Ant and Dec.
Ant and Dec, yeah.
At the end of my bed. I fantasise at night that he's seducing me. I'm 26 and I've developed such an obsession for Dec. I spend hours on the internet searching for articles and photos of him and endlessly check Ant and Dec's website. I'm not a stalker. I haven't tried to contact him, and I don't think I will. But I worry that my obsession.
I will.
I don't think
right,
I. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'd emigrate if I were you, Dec.
Must be a bit of a one-dimensional relationship,
Yeah,
isn't it?
but I worry that my obsession is getting out of hand. It puts me off going out because I know I'm never going to meet a guy as lovely as him. He's my ideal man, and he's on my mind day
Maybe
and
she
night.
should just take the cardboard cutout out with her.
Well, yeah, take it out with that. That's right. How can I control his obsession?
Sit him next to her in the pub.
Now you see that...
dancing with it.
Well,
that would be my
well, people have done worse things than that. Now, you know that heavy thing, right?
What heavy thing?
Well, I've just told you about this woman who says
Oh, yeah.
her husband's
Yeah.
repulsive. My husband's put on so
Why
much
have
weight.
you brought this up?
I find his body repulsive. Well,
Why have you brought this up?
Only because...
You're attempting to have a go at me, aren't you?
No, with the
Yes, you
greatest
are.
respect. With the greatest respect, you are not Slimline Jim.
No, I'm not. I never
Okay.
have been. I don't think I've been Slimline
No,
Jim
you were.
since I was about 23.
Oh, well, I knew you in those days, and you were quite...
I was very slim, very slim.
Much slimmer than you are now. So what do you put this excessive ballooning weight down to?
Well, it's not excessive ballooning weight. I've been about the same weight, I would say, for about 20 years.
So you've been repulsive for 20 years? have
Well,
you?
you might call me that, but there'll be a lot of women that would disagree.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
the point is, they don't look to me to be some kind of male model. They are entertained by me, which is
Well,
half the battle.
the only-
The point is that I've lived very well, I've eaten very well, I've drunk very well.
Oh, you've certainly drunk well, certainly eaten well.
Yeah, I have.
If you've
And
lived very
I've spent
well.
an awful lot of money trying to look, getting myself to look like this, and I don't regret any of it.
You see, you're making a joke of it.
I am.
Well,
I'm perfectly happy in my skin.
I mean, I first heard that joke about 35 years ago. It cost an awful lot of money to get this belly this big.
Yeah.
It's about a beer belly and all that kind of stuff. Well, you are a beer belly, if you don't mind me saying.
I mean, it's fine if you want to criticise me
No,
for
I'm not-
the way that I look.
I'm
I think
being
the way
factual.
that you look is rather laughably ridiculous. So why are you picking on me for this? I have no idea.
No, I'm taking no notice of what you say about me because, I've got
you weigh the same as me, as you've admitted.
Medical characteristics which I have to cope with, which you don't.
But you've got about 5 inches shorter than me.
No, of course I'm my phone. Anyway, look, the point I was going to tell you about the story. The point of the story is
I think you should worry less about me.
I was going out
look
with
in the mirror more.
I was going out with a young lady, right?
Yeah.
Who was extremely good looking, believe me. Really, really good looking girl.
I don't believe you.
No, she was, honestly.
I've seen some of the women you've gone out with.
And what's that supposed to mean?
I'm saying they weren't exactly in the extremely good looking category.
Oh, really? I'm glad you find that very funny because that is so personally insulting. I'm not going to react to it.
It's a bit like one of our friends, George Gordon, used to say.
Yeah.
If they hadn't gone out with Mike Parry, they wouldn't have gone out with anybody at all.
That's very funny. Anyway, I met this girl, and she's extremely good looking, very shapely, and very pretty face, and all this kind of stuff.
This is not the one you took on holiday, is it?
No. And great legs and all that kind of stuff, And
is she another secretary?
Well, no, she was a researcher, actually.
Oh, really?
But anyway,
was this another one of your employees that you preyed on?
No. And what was, it started getting closer, or at least she got closer to me. And then she she suggested that I should get to know her family a bit better, so we'd go around and have dinner with her sister and her sister's husband. So that's her sister and her brother-in-law. And I said, OK, that's not a problem. And we go around this place, OK, get a taxi there, get out, and then knock on the door, and this woman opens the door, and she is like Woman Mountain. I'm not joking. Woman Mountain.
Very tall.
No, she's huge. She's
just huge in every way.
And without being unkind, she's a very, very fat woman.
Right.
So, and you could hardly get past her to go down the passageway into the house.
Well, why were you trying to get past her?
Well, because she opened the door. There's the passageway, and the dining room's down there. So to get into the house, you had to get past her.
Squeeze past
her. Yeah.
Very right.
But what happened was. And this has ended the relationship. So
because you couldn't get into the house.
Well, no. I got in the house eventually. No, what I was going to say was, as we were eating the old dinner, which was very nice, by the way, she'd cooked nice dinner and all that kind of stuff. I'd been looking at this picture on one of their shelves, and I was trying to figure out who it was because it looked incredibly like my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And the bloke in the picture was definitely the husband. It was the same. They appear to remain the same
it was
size.
Like a wedding picture or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and then I suddenly realised that the woman in the picture was actually the sister.
Right.
But there was twice as much of her by now. You see what I mean? And
she may have had an eating disorder.
So I just kind of said, "Oh, how long have you been married then?" And they said 6 years. Now I couldn't believe that she'd gone from the really slim, svelte sort of figure in this picture. I think it was an engagement picture actually, the husband, to what I was looking in front of me now. Well, this is the point. But anyway, based on the fact that I thought the genes in a family are consistent and run like that, I then got obsessed.
No, I think you're taking the wrong tack there. What you should have done is look for a picture of her mother. Because it's a much more reliable source of what the girlfriends would turn out like.
Anyway, I then realised that my girlfriend was going to look like that in 6 years' time.
No, that's not correct, though.
And I didn't think I'd be able to handle it, so I ended the relationship.
No, you see, you got that wrong. Because any number of reasons why her sister might have had a weight problem. It could have been. It's nothing to do with genetics. But if you look at the mother, I'll tell you, it's uncanny. If you see how your fiance or your girlfriend's mother actually looks when she's older, that's what she's going to turn into.
I very subtly and with great tact and skill.
I can imagine you using that,
on the way home that night was saying, I see sister.
Did she want to stop off for a hamburger or anything? After dinner?
No. But I was saying, I see your sister's put a bit of weight on her over the years. She never stops eating now. And it's her husband of hers, who drives her mad and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Perhaps the husband was a feeder. Have you heard of that?
Well, yeah.
You've never heard of that?
Well, they make their wives look ugly,
they get
so that other men don't get interested in them.
No, it's not that. They get a charge out of actually feeding their partner. And
I don't know about that.
They like the fact that they become bigger and bigger and bigger.
I've read where husbands deliberately make their wives look ugly, put weight on.
Why would you do that?
And ban them from wearing nice clothes and all that, because they don't want other men to look at them.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird.
Quite often, if you do nothing, it just happens naturally.
Well, that's what I thought was going to happen. Anyway, I thought, I can't take the risk. I mean, I haven't seen the young lady since. I don't know what she looks like these days, but I couldn't take the risk.
Yeah. Shocking story. Unbelievable.
No, it's not.
No wonder you're not married.
It's no wonder you're not married. It's just being practical.
It's no wonder you're not married. Incredibly, we're almost at the end of the show. We've got, of course, extra time coming up very, very shortly. This is the Two Mics.
The Two Mics Summer Special.